Chapter 662. Hidden Moon Pavilion, Wind Pavilion. Although he was in favor of Yu Haoran heading to the Valley of the Medicine Masters as soon as possible to receive the teachings of the Medicine Masters, Feng Qingyun quickly reminded him when he remembered that his good friend, Zhao Qing, was a pill master from the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Haoran, when you go to the Valley of the Medicine Masters, you have to be wary of a pill master by the name of Zhao Qing. Master, could it be the pill Emperor Yunya, Zhao Qing? Hearing his master mention Zhao Qing of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, a middle-aged man with a similar temperament and style appeared in Yu Haoran's mind. That's right, it's him. Feng Qingyun asked in surprise after nodding his head. Haoran, Zhao Qing is a person who keeps a very low profile and is very particular about forbearance. Very few people have heard of his name. How did you know of him? I've heard Grandmaster Xiang mention it before. Yu Haoran lied without blushing or his heart beating wildly. Actually, the reason he knew of Zhao Qing was because of Zhao Qing. In his previous life, a large part of the reason why he was able to reach the realm of mastery and poison was because of Zhao Qing. In his previous life, when he first went to the Valley of the Medicine Masters as a guest, the person in charge of receiving him was Zhao Qing. At that time, his pill mastery had just reached the realm of a pill master. The first impression that Zhao Qing gave people was that of a refined scholar who stood aloof from worldly affairs. His personality was very similar to his master's, so he had a good relationship with Zhao Qing and had a lot of private contact with him. However, after years of being hunted down, it was very difficult for him to trust a person so easily. Therefore, he secretly investigated and spied on Zhao Qing for a period of time. It was because of this that he discovered that Zhao Qing was actually an upright gentleman on the surface, but was actually a cunning and despicable person behind his back. The reason why Zhao Qing had approached him was not because he genuinely wanted to be friends with him, but because he had taken a fancy to his talent in alchemy. He planned to use a special Devil Dao secret art to extract and fuse his talent in alchemy. Faced with such a situation, how could Feng Qingyun, who did not care about the consequences of his actions, go along with Zhao Qing's wishes? In the end, he found a good opportunity to kill Zhao Qing with poison and obtain his secret book of poison mastery. It was also with the help of the Poison Dao secret tome that his Poison Dao cultivation had truly reached a higher level. In the future, he would even advance to the greater mastery stage. The only pity was that when he checked the other party's collection, he didn't find any demonic arts that could fuse with his innate talent. Therefore, his trip to the Valley of the Medicine Masters this time, other than needing the assistance of the Valley's Pill Masters to refine the Icy Heart Jade Bone Elixir, as well as accepting the teachings of the Master Apothecary, his other goal was to find an opportunity to capture Zhao Qing alive and have the Thowling force him to reveal the secret demonic art that could fuse his innate talents. Haoran, Zhao Qing looks like an honest and upright person who likes to make friends with everyone. However, he is actually a vicious and despicable person. So, when you come into contact with him, you must be vigilant. Feng Qingyun reminded. Master, could it be that Zhao Qing was the one who poisoned you with the 7 worms and 7 flowers powder? As a refined scholar, Feng Qingyun was truly a person with no desires. To be able to make him call him a despicable person, it was enough to show that the other party's actions had reached a point where he could not tolerate. Combined with the fact that Zhao Qing was also proficient in poison, Yu Haoran immediately understood why his master was deliberately reminding him. In response, Feng Qingyun didn't say much, and Yu Haoran didn't ask any more questions. After all, regardless of whether or not his master was harmed, he would not let Zhao Qing off so easily. Master, I understand. Nodding, Yu Haoran indicated that he would be more vigilant. Then, he continued to speak to Ru Yin and Ru Yun. Senior Ru Yun, according to my original plan, after refining the Purple Heart Spiritual Recovery Elixir, I would continue to refine the Condensing Essence Elixir for you to recover your foundation. However, when I was helping you get rid of the Scarlet Blood Parasite, I used the Scarlet Blood Parasite to absorb the essence of your body over the years to refine the Essence Elixir, further enhancing your potential. At this moment, A level 4 first-grade condensing essence elixir is probably not enough to completely restore your damaged foundation. So, I plan to go to the Valley of the Medicine Masters to further improve my pill skills before refining the condensing essence elixir for you. Faced with Yu Haoran's slightly guilty explanation, Ru Yun waved her hand to indicate that she didn't mind. Haoran, it's fine. Whenever you feel confident, you can refine the elixir. I'm on a hurry. Then, she couldn't help but frown, then lowered her head in silence for a while. Then, she raised her head to ask Yu Haoran to leave. Haoran, my sister and I have something very important to do, so I'm afraid we have to leave now. Ru Yun took out an exquisite jade pendant and placed it on the stone table in front of Yu Haoran. Haoran, this jade pendant is a communication jade pendant that I entrusted to the weapon refining master of the weapon refining sect to refine. The jade pendant contains a drop of my blood essence. If you encounter danger that you can't deal with, you can activate the blood essence in the jade pendant. It will be able to withstand a full blow from a martial honorable who has passed through 3 tribulations. Also, if you successfully refine the condensing essence elixir, or if you have the ability to refine the antidote for the red blood parasite, you can activate the blood essence in the jade pendant. This way, I can rush over in the shortest time possible. Okay. Yu Haoran nodded and waved his hand to put away the jade pendant on the stone table. Haoran, Peak Master Feng, Your Highness, we sisters will take our leave first. Just as Yu Haoran put away the jade pendant on the stone table, Ru Yun pulled Ru Yin to stand up, then bowed and said goodbye. We won't see you off. Goodbye. Be careful. Feng Qin Yun, Qin Ling Fei, and Yu Haoran also stood up to send them off. However, from the different tones in which they said goodbye, one could tell that they had different attitudes towards Ru Yin and her sisters. Feng Qin Yun was cold, Qin Ling Fei was on guard, and Yu Haoran was concerned. Sister, why do we suddenly leave Qin Yun Peak? After leaving the 100 Qi Gate in the air, Ru Yin asked with a puzzled expression. Because trouble has come for us. Ru Yun, who had always been calm and collected in the Hidden Moon Pavilion, had a serious expression the moment they left the 100 Qi Gate. Trouble? What trouble? Ru Yin asked in confusion. Trouble from our clan. Could it be because of the red blood parasite? Ru Yin guessed with a frightened expression. That's right. Ru Yin nodded and explained in a serious tone. Sister, I'm sure you've already guessed that the red blood parasite was inexplicably planted in us by someone in the royal family. Now that Haoran has helped me get rid of the threat of the red blood parasite, those people in the royal family must have sensed it. They will definitely send a quasi-martial honorable expert to investigate. Ru Yun turned to look at Qin Yun Peak and said in a decisive tone, I can't lead the experts of the royal family here, and I can't let the royal family know that Yu Haoran has the ability to get rid of the red blood parasite. She then turned back and looked straight into Ru Yin's eyes. Chapter 663. 100 Qi Gate outside of the training peak. So, a ball of white light slowly emerged from the jade hand that Ru Yun had been keeping behind her back. Then, taking advantage of the time when Ru Yin was distracted by her words, she suddenly imprinted it on her chest. Ru Yin, Ru Yin asked in confusion as she felt her soul and Yuan Qi slowly drain away. Sister, I'm sorry. You have to be unconscious for a while. This is the only way to temporarily cut off the connection between the scarlet blood goo and the royal family. This is also the only way I can use sneak attacks to kill the experts sent by the royal family. Ru Yin reached out to hold the unconscious Ru Yin whose soul and Yuan Qi were sealed. She identified the direction and disappeared in a flash of lightning. After Ru Yin and Ru Yun left the Hidden Moon Pavilion, the 3 of them sat down again. Yu Haoran held Ling Fei's jade hand and said to Feng Qin Yun Peak, Master, in less than 20 days, it will be the day of my engagement with Ling Fei. According to the agreement I made with the Emperor, the location of the engagement will be in the Imperial Palace of Xianyang City. I hope Master can bring a few seniors and juniors to Xianyang City in advance. It's my disciple's engagement ceremony. As her master, Of course I will be there in advance. Feng Qingyan agreed with a smile. But at this time, he was very depressed and helpless. If Yu Haoran was only engaged to a female disciple of the same sect, even if it was the daughter of the sect leader, with Feng Qingyan's family background and Qingyan Peak status in the sect, there would be no problem in preparing a betrothal gift. But Qin Lingfei was still the princess of the Emperor Qin's kingdom. The great Emperor Qin's kingdom was a powerful force that did not lose to the top sex. Therefore, the betrothal gift of the groom during the engagement would be a very big test for him. Thinking of this, Feng Qingyun could not sit still. He had to discuss with his eldest disciple what kind of betrothal gift to prepare in order to not embarrass Yu Haoran. Haoran, ever since the princess came to Qingyan Peak, you haven't spent time with her. While you're at Medicine King Valley, you should spend some time with her. Feng Qingyan hurriedly left the Hidden Moon Pavilion after giving his instructions. Walk with me, Yu Haoran suggested as he held Qin Lingfei's lily-white hand tightly. Okay. Qin Lingfei lowered her head gently and agreed. In the following 2 days, Yu Haoran accompanied Qin Lingfei to explore the mountains he was familiar with during the day. He also told her about his encounters on these mountains. At night, they would discuss what they had comprehended in their cultivation and make up for their shortcomings through comprehension. It was through the discussion about cultivation that Qin Lingfei realized that Annie, who was really wrong. Not only did Yu Haoran's talent in alchemy far surpass that of a monstrous genius, his talent in martial arts also far surpassed all the monstrous geniuses she was familiar with. At the same time, after 2 days and 2 nights of contact, Qin Lingfei knew that her love for Yu Haoran, which was originally hazy, had now become unforgettable. However, what Yu Haoran didn't know was that just as he was taking Qin Lingfei to admire the scenery of the 100 Qi Gate, the entire sect had already set off a stormy wave of commotion. Although the people of the 100 Qi Gate didn't know the extent to which Qin Lingfei was favored in the Emperor Qin kingdom, the identity and status of the princess was enough to shock them speechless. What's more, these 2 days, they had also observed Qin Lingfei from afar. Although her face was covered by a silk veil, and they couldn't see her true appearance, from the shape of her face, they could basically guess that she had a peerless appearance. Moreover, Qin Lingfei, who had received the strictest education from the nobles since she was young, constantly exuded a noble aura that increased her endless charm. Therefore, in the entire 100 Qi Gate, from the 100-year-old elders to the new odd-job disciples, there wasn't a single person who didn't envy Yu Haoran's luck. However, to Kong Yung-ah and Lin Mingyao, besides envy and jealousy, there was also a very complicated sadness and unwillingness. In front of the achievement hall, looking at Clear Cloud Peak from afar, the image of Yu Haoran kissing and hugging Qin Lingfei appeared in her mind. Tears instantly wet the silk on Kong Yung-ah's face. Jingyao, forget it. Give up. Feeling the sadness on his disciple's body, the new achievement hall master softly advised. The 2 of you aren't suitable for each other. If you force yourself to pursue him, you'll only hurt yourself in the end. Hall master, I can't forget. I can't let go, Kong Yung-ah said in a hoarse voice as she shook her head. Jingya, Yu Haoran is a stranded true dragon. The small 100 Qi Gate definitely won't be able to keep him. In the future, the places he will fight will definitely be the vast and boundless central domain. You won't be able to keep up with his pace. Why don't you choose to let go? The Achievement Hall Master continued to advise. This way, you won't cause Yu Haoran to worry about his heart, and you'll also be able to answer to yourself. After hearing the Hall Master's advice, Kong Yung-ah continued to shake her head. After taking a deep breath, she suppressed the sadness in her heart and said, no matter where he goes in the future, no matter how great his future achievements are, as long as I can watch him from afar, I'll be perfectly satisfied. Then, Kong Yung-ah directly turned around and returned to the achievement hall. Looking at Kong Yung-ah, who still refused to give up on Yu Haoran, a cold light flashed in the achievement hall master's eyes. He turned his head and looked in the direction of Clear Cloud Peak. The cold light in his eyes was replaced by unwillingness. Sunset Peak. Lin Mingyao stood alone on the peak. Although she didn't reveal her true feelings like Kang Yung-ah, her depressed mood made her look very pitiful. However, after all, they had different backgrounds and had different personalities. Staring at Clear Cloud Peak, Lin Mingyao softly muttered to herself, "You Howren, just you wait. When I, Lin Mingyao, truly awaken the divine bloodline of the Hua clan and obtain the recognition of the Hua clan, I'll definitely bring a ceremony that won't lose out to the princesses. At that time, I'll see how that surnamed Qin will use his status to suppress me. I'll see how you Howren, make a new choice." 3 days later, at the bottom of the 100 Qi Gate Trial Peak. "Ling Fei, you've been out for a long time. Hurry back," Yu Howren gently urged as he helped Qin Ling Fei tidy up the messy hair on her forehead. "Howren, can't I accompany you to the Medicine King Valley?" Qin Ling Fei reluctantly requested. Shaking his head, Yu Howren decisively refused. "No, if you continue to be with me, I'm afraid that the Emperor and Steward Jiang will inform Deputy Commander Qin Lei and directly take you back to Xianyang City. After all, in half a month, you and I will hold the engagement ceremony. If you, as the fiancé, don't prepare in advance, wouldn't you be embarrassing the Emperor?" "Okay." Knowing that her request was a bit too much, Qin Ling Fei nodded in agreement while gently reminding him. "Howren, although the Medicine King Valley pays attention to being aloof from worldly affairs, where there are people, there will be disputes. You must pay attention to your safety." "I know." Nodding, Yu Howren gently said, "Wait for me in Xianyang City." "Okay." Nodding, Qin Ling Fei turned and walked towards Qin Lei. "Prince Consort, I'll take my leave." Signaling the Imperial Guards to surround Qin Ling Fei, Qin Lei clasped his hands and bid farewell. Chapter 664. I'm going back to my hometown in the countryside to celebrate the 15th of the month. Due to the grid in my hometown, tomorrow's 5 chapters will have to be pushed back to the afternoon. Please forgive me, brothers and sisters. 100 Qi Gate, outside the Trial Peak. After watching Qin Lei and the Imperial Guards protect Qin Ling Fei as they flew away from the 100 Qi Gate, Yu Howren withdrew his gaze and turned to speak to his master and eldest senior brother, who had also come to send him off. "Master, eldest senior brother, I will enter the depths of the mountain range and find He Xiong, who is breaking through to the 4th-rank Saint Realm. After that, I will head straight to the Medicine King Valley. Half a month later, we will meet at the Qingyuan Guild Hall in Xianyang City. All right, be careful on the road." Feng Qingyan exhorted as he nodded. "Ninth junior brother, take advantage of this trip to the Valley of the Medicine Masters and help us refine some elixirs to increase our cultivation and strength," Chu Zhongyu said jokingly. Perhaps it was because of the bloody battle with the Qingsheng sect that Chu Zhongyu's blood had been stimulated. Now, he rarely interfered with the matters of the sect and used more time to increase his cultivation and strength. At this time, he had successfully broken through to the 2nd-grade Martial King. "Eldest senior brother, don't worry. When we meet in Xianyang City, I will give you a gift that will make you go crazy," Yu Howren promised. Then, he turned and soared into the sky. Just as he was about to head straight for the depths of the mountain range, he unexpectedly sensed a familiar person standing at the peak of the Trial Peak. Turning his head, Yu Howren's originally happy mood instantly became heavy. Because standing at the peak of the Trial Peak, the delicate and pitiful person was Kang Yung-ah, who he had not seen since they parted ways in the Blue Moon Secret Realm. "Junior Sister Jiang, I'm sorry. I'm not a good match for you. If we force ourselves to be together, it will only harm you." After talking to himself, Yu Howren steeled his heart and turned around. Then, he sped up and flew into the depths of the mountain range. "Yu Shixiang, junior sister doesn't expect you to marry me. In the future, as long as I can look at you from afar, even if it's just your back, junior sister will be satisfied." Looking at Yu Howren, who was quickly flying into the depths of the mountain range, Kang Yung-ah wiped away the tears that fell from the corners of her eyes. Then, she put on the silk gauze and comforted herself. Following the route left by the black bear, Yu Howren soon arrived at the foot of a mountain that was about 1,000 meters high and filled with spiritual energy. After carefully observing the mountain in front of him, he finally found a cave that was about 20 meters high and 15 to 16 meters wide on the east side of the mountain. Appearing in front of the cave in a flash, Howard shouted towards the cave, "Black Bear, Howard, am here." After waiting for a full 3 seconds, there was no response from the cave. This made Howard frown involuntarily. Although the time taken for a strange beast to break through to the 4th level of the Saint Realm was much longer than that of a human practitioner, nearly 3 days and 4 nights was enough for the black bear to successfully break through to the 4th level of the Saint Realm and consolidate its realm after breaking through. This was also the reason why he had to enter the depths of the mountain range to find the black bear. After all, he had lived in the Valley of the Medicine Masters for a period of time in his previous life. He knew that the Valley of the Medicine Masters was far from being as aloof from worldly affairs as the rumors made it out to be. The dangers that surged in the dark were not at all inferior to the conflicts between the factions of the 100 Gate. Therefore, he had to bring the black bear that had broken through to the 4th level of the Saint Realm with him to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. This way, not only would it be able to protect him at all times, it would also be able to help him secretly deal with things that were inconvenient for him to do personally. Seeing that there was no response from a cave, Howard spread out his divine consciousness and began to use it to check the situation inside the cave. After his divine consciousness entered the cave, Howard discovered that the interior of the cave was very cozy and the environment was very clean. This made him suspicious. This was because ever since the black bear had followed him to the Chinyan Peak, it had always liked to stay in the corner of the Hidden Moon Pavilion. Other than the fact that it liked a dark environment, it was also because it was not very particular about hygiene and was afraid of dirty hygiene, which would make him unhappy. In other words, the clean cave in front of him was definitely not cleaned by the black bear. Its partner had long been captured by the 6-tailed white fox and sold to the elders of the Xiandao school. Then, who cleaned the cave in front of him? Or it could be said that ever since the black bear had followed him back to the Chinyan Peak, this cave had already been occupied by other strange beasts. Thinking of this, Howard withdrew his divine consciousness and flashed into the cave. His nose twitched slightly. He knew that this cave still belonged to the black bear and that the black bear had stayed in the cave an hour ago. At the same time, there was the smell of another strange beast in the cave. Moreover, this smell was somewhat familiar to him, but he could not recall it at the moment. Fouling. He wanted to know what had happened after the black bear returned to the depths of the mountain range. He needed to find the black bear. Helpless, Howard could only ask for help from Fouling, who was teaching his second clone about formations. "What's wrong?" Fouling asked after returning to the top floor of the Victor after instructing Howard's second clone to comprehend the formations he had just learned by himself. "Please use your divine consciousness and help me find the black bear," Howard requested. After hearing Howard's request, Fouling immediately released his peak martial honorable's divine consciousness. However, just as his divine consciousness expanded to less than 10,000 meters, he discovered the black bear's figure returning to the cave. However, what really surprised Fouling was not the fact that the black bear had successfully broken through to the 4th-rank sacred realm, but the little white fox that was following it. "Fouling, what's wrong?" Howard hurriedly asked after hearing Fouling's surprised voice. "Nothing. The black bear is returning to the cave." Fouling did not reveal the little white fox beside the black bear and casually explained, "That's good." Hearing that the black bear was about to return to the cave, Howard secretly heaved a sigh of relief. This meant that it did not have any objections. After exiting the cave, he found a green rock not far from the cave. He immediately sat cross-legged on the green rock and investigated while waiting for the black bear to return. The wait was not long, only about 5 minutes. Accompanied by hearty laughter, 2 identical black bears appeared in Howard's line of sight. After all, they had been following him for a period of time and had consumed many pills that he had refined. Therefore, Howard quickly identified the black bear on the left. It was the black bear that had been following him all this time. Jumping off the green rock, Howard greeted it with a smile. Black Bear! Master, why are you here? Hearing the familiar greeting, the black bear on the left hurriedly raised its head to take a look. When it realized that the person who greeted it was Yu Haoran, it hurriedly shouted in surprise. Then it turned its head to introduce the black bear beside it that looked exactly the same. Bai Tong, this is the master that I mentioned to you before. I was able to break through to the 4th rank sacred realm in such a short period of time because of Master's great help. Following the black bear to Yu Haoran, the black bear called Qing Tong greeted him with a smile. Hello, human martial arts genius. Hello, I didn't expect the honest black bear to find a... Chapter 665. In the depths of the mountain range. You're a charming fox. The familiar scent awakened his long-sealed memories. Yu Haoran finally recalled the true origin of the familiar scent in the cave. While quickly sealing off his sense of smell, Yu Haoran pointed out the other party's origins in fear as he quickly retreated. Hearing Yu Haoran call out charming fox, the black bear mutated beast that looked exactly like a black bear quickly turned into a small white fox about 5 to 6 centimeters tall and 10 centimeters long. Who are you? Bai Tong asked coldly as she stared at the retreating Yu Haoran with her scarlet eyes. How did you see through my identity at a glance? And how did you know about the charming fox tribe? A charming fox with a mutated bloodline of the ancient nine-tailed celestial fox. It has a charm that can make countless people fall for it. The name of the charming fox has been passed down since ancient times. It's not surprising that it could recognize you. After retreating to a safe distance, Yu Haoran finally calmed down the panic in his heart. While introducing the origin of the little white fox in front of him, he gave the black bear a look, telling it to quickly move away from Bai Tong. Unfortunately, in the face of Yu Haoran's meaningful glance, Black Bear turned a blind eye and only looked at Bai Tong with infatuation. Speak, who exactly are you? Seeing that Yu Haoran not only recognized her origins, but also knew about the charming fox, Bai Tong continued to ask as a pink glow appeared on her body. Yu Haoran, the vice-sect leader of the sect that guards this mountain range. After seeing the pink glow on Bai Tong's body, Yu Haoran knew that the white fox wanted to kill him. Thinking of the terrifying methods the charming fox tribe had, Yu Haoran took a deep breath and followed the other party's question as he introduced himself. He then asked with a puzzled expression, Bai Tong, from what I know, the charming fox that inherited the mutated bloodline of the ancient nine-tailed celestial fox is the most arrogant creature in the world. It won't approach anyone who doesn't have the bloodline of the ancient emperor. I really don't understand why you would use your charm to confuse the black bear and then take the opportunity to get close to it. Yu Haoran, do you know the origin of the black bear bloodline? Not only did he know the background of the charming fox, he also knew the temperament of the charming fox. Towards the young man in front of him, Bai Tong suddenly had a very strong interest. Therefore, it wanted to know more about Yu Haoran, but it didn't know it was very dangerous. Of course I do. It's a mutated beast that possesses the bloodline of the ancient sea of Death's Bear Emperor. It also has the potential to become a rank 2 martial emperor. Yu Haoran was also interested in the sudden appearance of the bewitching fox that had disappeared for tens of thousands of years. He also wanted to understand the reason for her sudden appearance. Therefore, he explained everything he knew about the black bear in full detail. Then do you know the origin of the ancient Dead Sea Bear Emperor? Bai Tong continued to ask. Shaking his head, Yu Haoran indicated that he did not know. Actually, it was all thanks to the thawing in his mind that he knew about the inheritance of the black bear bloodline. As for the ancestor of the black bear bloodline, even the thawing didn't know much about it. How could he possibly know about it? The Bear Emperor was one of the 3 overlords of the Sea of Death in ancient times. His strength and status were not inferior to the king of the 9 great ancient divine beasts. He once ruled the entire Black Sea for tens of millions of years. At this point, Bai Tong pointed at the black bear and said, This black bear has the bloodline of the bear bloodline. The black bear in front of us has inherited 50% of the Bear Emperor's bloodline. In the future, it has a 30% chance of reproducing the Bear Emperor's glory. From Bai Tong's explanation, Yu Haoran finally understood why Bai Tong had his eyes on the black bear. At the same time, he also didn't expect that the seemingly ordinary black bear would have such a thick bloodline of the ancient bear emperor. However, although Bai Tong's explanation seemed reasonable, it still made Yu Haoran suspicious. Bai Tong, how long have you been in the world? 9 days. Bai Tong replied with a puzzled expression. Where did you come into the world? Yu Haoran's eyes lit up. He already had an answer in his heart and continued to ask. The eternal ancient forest. Bai Tong continued to be puzzled and answered. The eternal ancient forest? He frowned slightly, not sure where the forest Bai Tong mentioned was. It's the primeval forest in the depths of this mountain range. Seeing Yu Haoran frown slightly, Bai Tong knew that the name he mentioned was too ancient. This was why the young man in front of him hadn't heard much about it. He pointed at the depths of the mountain range and said, Bai Tong, since you came into the world, you must have never left this mountain range, right? Yu Haoran nodded and asked with a smile. What do you mean? Bai Tong asked even more suspiciously. Bai Tong, since the end of ancient times and the rebirth of life, the true masters of this continent are no longer the strange beasts of ancient times. They are human warriors. At this point, Yu Haoran pointed at the black bear and said, Bai Tong, according to what I know, the charming fox is good at seduction techniques. There's a technique called heart-to-heart. Through the secret technique of heart-to-heart, you can see the other party's life experiences. That's right. As he nodded in response to Yu Haoran, Bai Tong's heart was filled with shock. Not only did he know the charming fox's history, personality, and habits, he even knew the secret techniques that the charming fox was good at. Bai Tong's interest in this young man in front of him had far surpassed the black bear. Then you can use the secret technique of heart-to-heart-to-heart to see the black bear's life experiences. Then you can understand the situation of the world. Yu Haoran suggested with a smile. After hearing Yu Haoran's suggestion, Bai Tong turned his head to look at the black bear. A trace of purple light appeared in his scarlet fox eyes. When the purple light shot into the black bear's eyes, scenes of the black bear's life, its growth, and its cultivation appeared in Bai Tong's mind one after another. Taking this opportunity, Yu Haoran sat down cross-legged to show that he had no ill intentions. He also used his consciousness to ask Thaling for help. Thaling, do you know anything about this charming fox? Do you know what its weakness is? Thaling did not immediately reply to Yu Haoran's request for help. Like Bai Tong, he was eager to know how Yu Haoran knew about the charming fox clan that had been extinct for hundreds of years. Yu Haoran, how do you know about the charming fox? In my previous life, I once entered an ancient tomb. It was an ancient tomb left behind from ancient times. The owner of the ancient tomb was a charming fox that possessed the mutated bloodline of the 9 ancient foxes. Since Yu Haoran was connected to the tower spirit, there was no need for him to hide his secrets. He told the tower spirit everything he knew about the origins of the charming fox. In that ancient tomb, there was a jade slip left behind. The jade slip described in detail the life of that bewitching fox at the peak of the Emperor realm. Chapter 666. In the mountain range, Yu Haoran, as one of the 9 great ancient divine beast kings, a mutated 9-tailed celestial fox, the charming fox could be said to be one of the strongest divine beasts in the world. Thaling said with a complicated expression as he recalled the records of the charming fox in his mind. No matter if it's its attack power or its defense after condensing 9 tails, the charming fox could be said to have no weaknesses. Impossible. After hearing Thaling's introduction of the charming fox, Yu Haoran's first reaction was doubt. Thaling, even a god that enjoys eternal life would have a fatal weakness. I don't believe that the charming fox doesn't have a weakness. You're right. Facing Yu Haoran's doubt, Thaling nodded in agreement and said with a sorrowful tone, If the charming fox has a fatal weakness, it's probably love. Thaling, continue. Love was a fatal weakness. The answer given by the tower spirit just now, combined with his understanding of charming foxes from his previous life, made Yu Haoran interested. From the ancient era to the modern era, although there aren't many records of the charming fox, there are at least 10 cases. From these cases, you will realize that in all the battles that the charming fox participated in, they have never lost, and there are no records of them being injured. Just from this point alone, it can be seen that the charming fox has great strength and defense. However, in the 10 or so records of the charming fox, their fates were all very tragic. And the ones who brought them tragic fates were those who couldn't bear the betrayal of love and chose to kill themselves. After hearing Thaling's explanation, Yuhauran thought back to the end of the charming fox in the ancient tomb in his previous life. Just as Thaling said, it was the charming fox that took the initiative to ignite the fire in its heart and chose to kill itself. "Thaling, what should I do?" Yuhauran asked gloomily as he looked at Baitong, who was still reading the black bear's life story. She had the strongest attack and defense in the world, as well as the charming fox that no one could resist. Let's wait and see. In this regard, Thaling also had no way to deal with it. He could only give an answer that made Yuhauran even more depressed. How is this possible? Baitong, who had read all of Black Bear's life experiences, had a look of shock in his eyes. Even during the Middle Ages, when humans were at their peak, the demon race was still one of the strongest overlords in the universe. They still had the power to rule over hundreds of races. Why is it that even now, it is being suppressed by human experts to the point that it can only hide in the deep mountains and forests? Facing the cruel reality, Baitong muttered to himself in disbelief. Regarding this, Yuhauran did not say much, nor did he know what to say. Regardless of whether it was the ancient era when the divine beasts ruled the entire continent, or the demon clan ruled the world in the recent ancient era, or even the current dominance of the profound sky continent by the powerful humans, all of these were merely the laws of survival of the fittest and survival of the fittest. Yuhauran, in Black Bear's life experiences, the information I have about you humans is not complete. I need to know more about the situation of this continent from you, so... Baitong, who had read Black Bear's life experiences, was still somewhat unwilling to give up. He felt that Black Bear's life experiences were very likely an exception and did not necessarily represent the true situation of the entire world. Therefore, he set his sights on Yuhauran, intending to learn more about the situation of the world from him. Baitong, even if I, Yuhauran, die, I will never let you read my memories. Seeing that Baitong intended to use the bewitching fox secret technique to read his life experiences, Yuhauran immediately jumped up and activated the most powerful python blood essence in his body at the same time, showing an attitude that he would rather die than submit. There were too many secrets in his life experiences. Just the one chi into 3 pure one's martial art was enough to cause chaos in the world, not to mention the heaven-defying secrets of Thaling and rebirth. However, Baitong did not care at all about Yuhauran's unyielding protest. The originally scarlet fox eyes gradually flashed with a trace of purple light. After seeing the purple light in Baitong's eyes, Yuhauran's expression could not help but change. Because Baitong was using the purple light in his eyes to read Black Bear's life experiences. At the same time, he was even more frightened to find that the purple light had locked onto him, and he could not avoid it, even if he wanted to. What to do? Seeing that the purple light was about to leave Baitong's eyes, Yuhauran helplessly found that he did not seem to have any way to deal with it. When the purple light left Baitong's eyes and shot towards his own eyes, Yuhauran subconsciously took out a simple bronze mirror from his storage ring. The simple bronze mirror happened to block the 2 rays of purple light that shot towards him. The ancient Khanate magic treasure, the yin-yang mirror of life and death. After seeing that the simple bronze mirror had blocked and reflected the purple light, Baitong's face revealed a look of horror, just like Yuhauran had before. When he wanted to dodge the reflected purple light, Baitong found that it was already too late. The 2 rays of purple light shot back into his eyes. Then Baitong was like a black bear standing there in a daze without moving an inch. What made Yuhauran feel incomparably shocked was that many images suddenly appeared in his mind. These images were the records of Baitong's life experiences. A palm-sized white fox stood on top of a mountain that was tens of thousands of meters tall and was completely purple in color. In front of the white fox, There was a 1,000-meter-tall charming fox with 9 huge tails roaring towards the sky with a sorrowful expression. After roaring, the charming fox's gaze turned towards the white fox, and the sorrowful expression in its eyes instantly turned into infinite gentleness. Tonger, I was wrong, because I made the same mistake as my ancestors. I fell in love with a man that I shouldn't have. Now, I also have to bear the punishment of my mistake. It stretched out a huge tail and gently stroked the white fox. The gentleness in the charming fox's eyes was quickly replaced by pain. The fate of the charming fox clan is to betray and die. That man chose to betray me in order to rule the world for a long time, and I am about to accompany my ancestors, leaving you to live in this world alone. But the world is about to change. With your current strength and state, you will not be able to survive. So, I can only use the heaven-sealing, earth-locking technique to completely seal you. When the time is right, you will be able to break out of the seal and be reborn. Although it is said that the most untrustworthy thing in this world is a man's heart, the fate of the charming fox makes us unable to control our own fate and walk on this path. The celestial fox swore to the heavens as it retracted its tail that was stroking the little white fox. Chapter 667. In the mountain range, Bai Qing was willing to sacrifice her divine soul in exchange for Bai Tong's eternal happiness. A 5-color cloud landed on Bai Tong's body. Tong, it's time for me to leave. I hope your fate won't be as tragic as your mother's and the ancestors. I hope your life will be peaceful and happy. I hope you can meet a responsible man. After the 5-color cloud merged with Bai Tong's body, a purple flame burned inside Bai Qing's body. As if she couldn't feel the purple flame's damage to her body and divine soul, Bai Qing kindly gave Bai Tong her most sincere and warmest blessings as a mother. As Bai Qing's fox body and soul gradually disappeared under the burning of the purple flames, Bai Tong, who was standing on a milky white rock, emitted traces of purple light around her body. The purple light gradually enveloped the milky white stone and Bai Tong, who was standing on it. When the image in his sea of consciousness finally stopped at the purple light shooting out from Bai Tong's eyes, Yu Haoran looked at Bai Tong with eyes full of pity, shock, and disbelief. Pity because of Bai Tong's tragic fate. Shock because of Bai Tong's strength. According to Bai Tong's life experience that was revealed by the purple light, Yu Haoran knew that the little white fox in front of him was actually a charming fox that had just started cultivating. Having just started cultivating, even if the bewitching fox's potential was extraordinary, it would only be a 10th-grade exotic beast at most. With the strength of a 10th-grade exotic beast, it could control a 4th-grade saint-level black bear. It was enough to say that the charming fox's bloodline inheritance was powerful. The disbelief was based on the information revealed when the purple light revealed Bai Tong's life. It was very likely that Bai Tong came from the Middle Ages or the late ages of the Demon Clan. Being able to use the sealing technique to allow its descendants to survive 1 or 2 periods of drastic changes in the world was enough to prove the horror of the charming fox with the ancient 9-tailed celestial fox bloodline inheritance. After the purple light finished revealing Bai Tong's life, Bai Tong immediately woke up. Thinking that all its secrets were exposed to the human in front of it, Bai Tong's first reaction after waking up was not anger, but embarrassment. Which one? Yu Haoran also didn't think that the inside of the yin-yang life and death mirror could reflect the purple light and peek into Bai Tong's life. He didn't know how to explain and could only choose the most old-fashioned way to apologize. Bai Tong, I'm really sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. You have to be responsible for her. Facing the embarrassed Yu Haoran, Bai Tong, who was originally shy, gradually regained her calmness and said shyly, "What?" Looking at Bai Tong in disbelief, Yu Haoran asked in disbelief. Just now, when Ziyuan activated my life, there were scenes of her washing up and dressing up. You saw everything she did. Shouldn't you take responsibility? Although it was in the shape of a fox, from its slightly red nose, it could be seen that Bai Tong's explanation just now was also due to her embarrassment. Miss Bai Tong, let's not make this kind of joke. How can you and I be together? Forcibly suppressing the shock in his heart, Yu Haoran hurriedly argued. Yu Haoran, I know what your concerns are. Yu Haoran's objection didn't make Bai Tong sad. She said in a very serious tone, as a mutated, ancient, nine-tailed fox bloodline of the Heavenly Fox clan, we charming foxes not only have powerful strength and a long lifespan, but also have a chance to transform. Speaking of this, Bai Tong suddenly turned around, then took 4 short steps, turned into a white light, and disappeared into the mountain range. However, Yu Haoran's ears echoed the promise Bai Tong made when she left. Darling Yu, wait for me. When I, Bai Tong, break through the 4th level of the Saint Realm and can transform into a human, I will definitely come find you. Sigh. Looking at the disappearing Bai Tong, Yu Haoran finally couldn't help but sigh. Just as Yu Haoran was filled with worry, Thowling in his sea of consciousness suddenly spoke. Yu Haoran, do you still remember a few days ago in the Hidden Moon Pavilion? Your master reminded you that love is the most hurtful and that you must not hurt Qin Lingfei's heart. Of course I remember. Nodding, Yu Haoran replied. It was because of Feng Qingyun's persuasion that he finally chose to face Qin Lingfei and take responsibility for her. Yu Haoran, although I, Thowling, am not your master, but my contribution and help to you is not inferior to Feng Qingyun's. Thowling continued to ask. Thowling, in my heart, Yu Haoran, you are not only my master, but also my relative, my elder. Although he didn't understand why Thowling suddenly wanted to compare him to his master, Yu Haoran still followed his heart and answered truthfully. Then when Bai Tong breaks through the 4th level of the Saint Realm and turns into a human, can you promise me that not only will you accept her, but you will also protect her forever and never betray her? Speaking until here, Thowling suddenly left Victor and left the sea of consciousness. For the first time, he truly faced Yu Haoran. Looking at his appearance, he was in his 40s and wearing clothes condensed from mysterious yellow qi, giving off a mysterious feeling. Yu Haoran couldn't help but fall into silence. Originally, the reason why he promised his master to accept Qin Lingfei was because the two were already engaged. In order to avoid hurting Qin Lingfei, he tried to open the frozen door of love. Even now, he didn't really have feelings for Qin Lingfei. To put it bluntly, he was afraid of being hurt emotionally. Thowling, you and I have known each other for a long time. You should understand my character very well. No matter how big the problem is, I have the confidence to overcome it. Only love is different. Looking up at Thowling, Yu Haoran didn't directly refuse, but he basically expressed his intentions. Yu Haoran, let's take a step back. If you can accept Bai Tong in the end, can you promise me that you will never betray the feelings between the two of you? Thinking of He Ruyu's betrayal, Yu Haoran was very calm on the surface, but his heart was bleeding like blood. Thowling knew that his request, just now, was a bit too much. Therefore, he took a step back and asked, Thowling, whether it is in the previous life or this life, I, Yu Haoran, will always be the one being moved by love. It has always been others who dumped me. When have I ever dumped others? Facing Thowling's request to take a step back, Yu Haoran very cowardly gave an affirmative answer. Yu Haoran, thank you. Chapter 668. In a while, I'll accompany a few friends who won't be returning to their hometown for the Mid-Autumn Festival. I can only try my best to write the 5th chapter. If the 5th chapter is delayed because I can't handle the alcohol, I'll definitely write the 6th chapter tomorrow. In the mountain range, as he walked towards the black bear that had fainted when Bai Tong read its memories, Yu Haoran interrogated Thowling, who had returned to Victor. Thowling, ever since we met, this is the first time you've asked me so seriously. According to our previous agreement, shouldn't you explain what you did just now? In ancient times, my original body, Victor, suffered a fatal attack. As a weapon spirit, not only was I almost destroyed, even the power of the law of time in Victor was almost devoured by the opponent's weapon. Back then, the pagoda spirit and Yu Haoran had reached an agreement that they would no longer keep secrets from each other because he had concealed the one Qi into 3 pure ones cultivation method. Therefore, in the face of Yu Haoran's questioning, Thowling, who had originally wanted to hide that part of his history, could only tell the truth. Later on, it was all thanks to Baitong's ancestor. Not only did she save Victor, but she also used a special secret technique to help me recover my spiritual body as a weapon spirit. She also taught me the best formation techniques, which allowed me to escape the calamity of ancient times. It can be said that the ancestor of the Charmed Fox clan had saved my pagoda spirit's life, and he had also recognized my worth. Thowling, although I can't give you a 100% guarantee, I promise you that I'll do my best to protect Baitong in the future. After listening to Thowling's explanation of his relationship with Baitong's ancestor, Yu Haoran, who was deeply moved, solemnly made his promise. Yu Haoran, thank you. As Thowling expressed his sincere gratitude, he also passed on all his knowledge of formations to his second doppelganger. He took out a pill that could be used to wake up, crushed it, and scattered it on the black bear's body. 3 seconds later, the black bear, who had fainted, gradually woke up. Master, why are you here? After waking up, the black bear saw Yu Haoran standing in front of him and asked curiously. After all, according to their original agreement, he was to return to Qingyun Peak after breaking through to the 4th level of the Saint Realm. Nothing, I was just worried about you. So, I came to see if you've successfully broken through to the 4th level of the Saint Realm. I want to ask if you can leave the mountain range with me and go to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Seeing that the black bear had forgotten everything that had happened with Bai, Yu Haoran knew that Baitong had purposely erased the black bear's memories. After all, Baitong's relationship with Baitong was to the black bear's TSS. Yu Haoran also remembered that he had promised the pagoda spirit that he would treat Baitong well in the future, so he could only lie to cover up everything for Baitong. Of course, perhaps it was because the charming fox had a natural mastery of the art of illusion, but after hearing Yu Haoran's lie, the black bear automatically ignored the fact that he had broken through to the 4th level of the Saint Realm and did not look for Yu Haoran immediately. Instead, he excitedly agreed to go to the Valley of the Medicine Masters with him. The more he asked, the more suspicious the black bear would be. Therefore, Yu Haoran directly gestured for the black bear to enlarge its body and jumped onto the black bear's back. Black bear, take me to find the black rat first, then to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Master, the rat ancestor left this mountain range half a month ago. As for where it went, it didn't leave behind any clues. The black bear hurriedly reminded Yu Haoran when he heard that Yu Haoran was going to look for the rat ancestor. In that case, let's leave the mountain range now and go to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. They had only known each other for a short time, and their relationship was not deep. Therefore, when he heard that the black rat had left the mountain range, Yu Haoran was not too disappointed. He only urged the black bear to leave the mountain range quickly and go to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Just as the black bear was leaving the mountain range with Yu Haoran, in a small cave not far from the black bear's cave, a pair of small black eyes stared intently at the black bear flying away from the mountain range. The eyes were full of reluctance and pain. The Valley of the Medicine Masters was almost 30,000 kilometers away from the mountain range where the 100 Chi Gate was. Flying to the Valley of the Medicine Masters with the power of a martial arts grandmaster would take at least half a month. Luckily, after breaking through to the 4th level of the Saint Realm, the black bear's power had not only changed tremendously, but its flying speed had also increased by 10 times. Therefore, in less than 2 days, the black bear brought Yu Haoran to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Looking at the slightly ordinary entrance to the valley, Yu Haoran, who had lived in the Valley of the Medicine Masters for a period of time in his previous life, knew that there was another world inside the valley. The Tianxian continent had the 3 wonders: the Heavenly Palace of the Yushu Temple, the Sword Tomb of the Sky Sword Sect, and the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The Heavenly Palace of the Yushu Temple was a unique mountain peak that could float independently in midair. It had the strongest defense in the world. According to rumors, when the Yushu Temple was not as strong as it was now, there was once a powerful cultivator who had just broken through to the martial honorable realm and attacked the Heavenly Palace with a complete martial honorable realm weapon. In the end, The martial honorable cultivator was exhausted, and the heavenly palace was not damaged at all. The sword tomb of the Sky Sword sect was a cemetery where countless swords were buried. Although the Sky Sword sect was only a first-rate sect, even the most powerful Yushu temple did not dare to provoke the Sky Sword sect. The reason was that the sword tomb of the Sky Sword sect had the strongest attack power in the world. The various great sects had very clear records. 100 years ago, the deputy sect leader of the Sky Sword sect had offended a peak-level third-grade martial honorable cultivator in the process of searching for treasures. After killing the deputy sect leader of the Sky Sword sect, the peak-level third-grade martial honorable cultivator did not quell the anger in his heart. He immediately charged towards the Sky Sword sect with a complete martial honorable realm weapon. The sect leader of the Sky Sword sect had only used 1% of the power in the sword tomb to easily kill the peak-level third-grade martial honorable cultivator. If not for the fact that the Sky Sword sect did not have enough strength and numbers, they would have been ranked among the top sects long ago. The third wonder was the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Not only did the valley have an enchanting environment like a paradise on earth, it also had the most abundant spiritual energy in the world. This was because at the bottom of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, there was a spiritual vein of the upper third grade. If not for the unique way in which the Valley of the Medicine Masters existed, it would have been forcefully occupied by cultivators of the martial honorable realm and above. "Who are you?" The disciple in charge of guarding the entrance of the valley asked politely when he saw the young man standing at the entrance of the valley, unwilling to leave. "Hello. My surname is Yu, and my name is Howren. I am the deputy sect leader of the 100 Chi Gate. I have received an invitation from Elder Xiong to visit the Valley of the Medicine Masters." Yu Howren hurriedly introduced himself politely. The deputy sect leader of the 100 Chi Gate, Yu Howren, has received an invitation from Elder Xiong. After hearing Yu Howren's detailed introduction, the disciple in charge of guarding the entrance of the valley muttered to himself as he recalled. Finally, he remembered that Elder Xiong had returned to the Valley of the Medicine Masters a few days ago and had solemnly introduced and warned him. Chapter 669. Valley of the Medicine Masters. In front of the valley. That's right. Having lived in the Valley of the Medicine Masters for a period of time in his previous life, he knew that most of the people in the Valley of the Medicine Masters were alchemists who were obsessed with the art of alchemy. To be valued in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, no matter how high one's status was, no matter how strong one's cultivation was, it was far better to show off one's outstanding achievements in alchemy. Therefore, in the face of the Valley of the Medicine Masters' disciples questioning, Yu Howren nodded and admitted, "You are indeed Grandmaster Yu." After receiving Yu Howren's confirmation, the Valley of the Medicine Master's disciple immediately became excited. He straightened his clothes and greeted respectfully. Disciple Su Tingyuan greets Grandmaster Yu. After hearing Su Tingyuan's self-introduction, Yu Howren praised him like an elder, cloud, crane 9 heavens, dragon soaring 4 seas. Since you are a disciple of the Tang generation, you must have already begun to dabble in the pill scripture of the valley. After hearing Yu Howren's praise, Su Tingyuan hurriedly said modestly, "Your disciple is stupid. After 10 years in the sect, I have only begun to dabble in the pill scripture and can only attempt to refine level 10 vitality pills. Alchemy requires talent, hard work, and a master. Since you are already able to dabble in the pill scripture and attempt to refine pills, it shows that you are highly valued by the Valley of the Medicine Masters. I hope you do not waste your talent and ascend to the position of Grandmaster Alchemy as soon as possible." Yu Howren nodded encouragingly. "Many thanks for Grandmaster Yu's teachings. Your disciple will remember them." In the face of Yu Howren's encouragement, Su Tingyuan thanked him even more excitedly. In the face of Su Tingyuan's thanks, Yu Howren only nodded and did not speak. This made Su Tingyuan realize his lack of manners, and he hurriedly corrected himself. "Grandmaster Yu, when Elder Xiong returned to the valley a few days ago, he specifically instructed me that when you arrived in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, I must inform him immediately. Please wait for a while. After that, Su Tingyuan used a special jade talisman to inform Xiang Wenxuan in the valley. Huh. It was not very long, only about a minute or so. With a burst of hearty laughter, Xiang Wenxuan quickly appeared in front of the valley. Brother Yu, according to the time we agreed on, you're late by 2 days. We saw Yu Haoran standing in front of the valley with a smile on his face. Xiang Wenxuan put his arm around his shoulder and complained happily. Yu Haoran casually explained, Old brother Xiang, there's nothing I can do about it. There are a lot of things to do in the sect, so I was delayed for a while. There's no point in continuing to guard a sect that's about to fall from grace. Why don't younger brother you join the Valley of the Medicine Masters and become a carefree alchemist? Xiang Wenxuan commented disdainfully as he thought of the declining 100 Qi gate. After that, he began to reveal his true intentions for inviting Yu Haoran to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. In response, Yu Haoran only smiled and did not give any reply. Younger brother Yu, this is your first time in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. I'll take you on a tour now. Seeing that Yu Haoran had ignored his invitation, Xiang Wenxuan did not mind either. He also knew that he could not rush the invitation, so he took the initiative to change the topic. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran followed Xiang Wenxuan into the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The first thing he felt after entering the valley was that his vision was slightly blurry. Yu Haoran knew that this was because the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the Valley of the Medicine Masters was too dense. At the edge of the valley, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was close to vaporizing. Luckily, he had lived in the Valley of the Medicine Masters for a period of time in his previous life, so he was very familiar with the environment in the valley. Therefore, he did not show any signs of shock because of the dense spiritual energy in front of him and the beautiful environment in front of him that was close to fairyland. As for Yu Haoran's overly calm reaction, Xiang Wenxuan was slightly disappointed. He felt that his plan to use the unique fairyland environment of the Valley of the Medicine Masters to tempt Yu Haoran to leave the 100 Qi Gate and join the Valley of the Medicine Masters would not work. Therefore, after a simple tour of a few scenic spots with special symbolic significance in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Xiang Wenxuan led Yu Haoran straight to the center of the valley, which was the source of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Elder Xiang, what brings you here to see the valley head today? When Xiang Wenxuan brought Yu Haoran to an extremely spacious courtyard where the spiritual energy of heaven and earth had already been completely vaporized, a handsome middle-aged man in a green robe stood at the entrance of the courtyard and greeted them with a smile. He exuded a scholarly temperament. So it's Elder Zhao. Raising his head to look at the middle-aged man standing in front of the courtyard, Xiang Wenxuan responded with a smile. Then, he turned his head to introduce the man to Yu Haoran. Brother Yu, this is Elder Zhao Qing from our Valley of the Medicine Masters. He's also an alchemy grandmaster. Then, Xiang Wenxuan introduced Yu Haoran to Zhao Qing. Elder Zhao, brother Yu may be young and his cultivation is low, but his talent and potential in the way of the pill is astonishing. He is now at the pinnacle of the pill grandmaster realm. After hearing Xiang Wenxuan's introduction, Zhao Qing's originally smiling expression was instantly replaced by joy, and his tone became even more enthusiastic as he called out to Yu Haoran. Since ancient times, heroes have been born from the young. I never thought that Grandmaster Yu's talent and potential in the way of the pill is so astonishing. I, Zhao Qing, love to make friends with pill geniuses like Grandmaster Yu. Elder Zhao, you are too kind. I am not as outstanding as Brother Xiang makes me out to be. I can only be considered a junior in the way of the pill. Yu Haoran hurriedly replied humbly. Zhao Qing was not only a sinister person who had secretly poisoned his master, but also an enemy who had tried to use a demonic technique to devour his talent in the way of the pill in his previous life. At this moment, facing his enemy Zhao Qing, Yu Haoran wanted nothing more than to skin him alive and pull out his bones. However, in order to obtain the demonic technique that could devour talent, he could only pretend to be a snake for the time being. Grandmaster Yu, excessive humility is arrogance. To be praised by Elder Xiang, who is known for his foresight, I believe that your talent and potential in the way of the pill must be even more outstanding. In the face of Yu Haoran's humility, Zhao Qing used a mocking method to test him. Elder Zhao, I'm really not being humble. It's just that some time ago, with Brother Xiang's help, I successfully refined a level 5 ninth grade 5 lives mystery pill. Yu Haoran seemed to be humble, but his shocking talent in the way of the pill was exposed, and he used it to bait Zhao Qing. Grandmaster Yuan, are you free? I will host a banquet to welcome you and discuss the way of the pill, Grandmaster. Zhao Qing was very familiar with Xiang Wenxuan's skill in the way of the pill. He knew that Xiang Wenxuan did not have the ability to refine the 5 lives mystery pill that could help a quasi-martial honorable break through the hard tribulation. In other words, the person who had truly refined the 5 lives mystery pill was Yu Haoran, and Xiang Wenxuan was at most an assistant. Chapter 670. In the Valley of the Medicine Masters. This, in the face of Zhao Qing's invitation, Yu Haoran wanted nothing more than to nod his head and agree so that he could capture Zhao Qing alive and have Faling interrogate him about the demonic art of devouring. But he knew that he could not be too hasty. If he aroused suspicion, not only would it be detrimental to his plan to capture Zhao Qing alive, he might even offend the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Therefore, Yu Haoran purposely looked hesitantly at Xiang Wenxuan. After some consideration, Xiang Wenxuan nodded his head at Yu Haoran in silent agreement. To be able to receive Elder Zhao's guidance, this junior would be more than happy to do so. After receiving Xiang Wenxuan's silent approval, Yu Haoran immediately responded enthusiastically. After receiving Yu Haoran's approval, Zhao Qing was ecstatic. I will be staying in the Valley of the Medicine Masters for a while. If Grandmaster Yu is free, you can ask a disciple to bring you to the secluded pavilion to look for me. Then, he said to Xiang Wenxuan with a smile, Elder Xiang, Grandmaster Yu is an esteemed guest of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. As an elder of the Valley, it is only right that we treat our esteemed guest with respect. So, Elder Xiang, please bring Grandmaster Yu to see the Valley Master first. I will be back in a while. How could I? Xiang Wenxuan said politely. No worries. Zhao Qing waved his hand and turned to leave the courtyard. After leaving the courtyard and completely avoiding Yu Haoran and Xiang Wenxuan's line of sight, Zhao Qing used his divine consciousness to scan his surroundings. After confirming that there was no one watching, he immediately took out a special communication jade amulet and left a message about Yu Haoran. After keeping the communication jade amulet, Zhao Qing looked behind him proudly and quickly returned to the secluded pavilion. Brother Yu, Zhao Qing may seem friendly and hospitable, but his thoughts are hard to read. After Zhao Qing left, Xiang Wenxuan, who was all smiles, suddenly became serious as he reminded Yu Haoran in a serious tone. If you really want to visit the secluded pavilion, it's best that you let me know first. I will accompany you. Brother Xiang, I got it. As Yu Haoran nodded his head in acknowledgement, an idea surfaced in his mind. It was a plan that would allow him to capture Zhao Qing alive without incurring the wrath of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Of course, the prerequisite was that he had to successfully refine the icy heart jade bone elixir and obtain the opportunity to receive the Master Apothecary's inheritance. Valley Master, Wen Xian has brought a friend to seek an audience. Seeing that Yu Haoran had taken his advice to heart, Xiang Wenxuan heaved a sigh of relief and gestured towards the courtyard. Could it be Grandmaster Yu Haoran, who can refine the 5 lives mysterious gate pill? After hearing Xiang Wenxuan's request, a joyful voice immediately came from the courtyard. Yes, Master Yu, Xiang Wenxuan replied. With Xiang Wenxuan's response, the courtyard door opened automatically. Then, an old man in his 60s with silver hair stood in front of the door with a gentle expression. Brother Yu, this is the current Valley Master of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Gu Zi. Seeing the silver-haired old man standing in front of the courtyard door, Xiang Wenxuan bowed and hurriedly introduced him to Yu Haoran. Junior Yu Haoran greets the Valley Master. Actually, even without Xiang Wenxuan's introduction, Yuhaoran already knew that the old man standing in front of him was Guzi, the Valley Master of the Medicine Masters for nearly 100 years. Guzi was the collective name of every Valley Master of the Medicine Masters. No matter what your name was or where you came from the moment you became the Valley Master of the Medicine Masters, the name Guzi would be your name in the pugilistic world. Not bad at all. Guzi nodded his head in satisfaction after looking him up and down. After praising him, Guzi stepped aside and gestured, "Grandmaster, you, after you. Valley Master, after you." Although he knew that the Valley Master of the Medicine Masters in front of him was a person who did not care about trifles, Yuhaoran would definitely not take the initiative to break the etiquette of the first meeting. "Grandmaster Yu, Xiang Wenshuan has already told me about your deeds in detail a few days ago." After entering the courtyard side by side, Guzi impolitely asked for guidance before they could even get to know each other better. "However, this Valley Master has two questions that have been weighing down on my heart. I have always wanted to seek the Grandmaster's answers." Xiang Wenshuan, who was following behind, could not help but slap his forehead and smile helplessly. Guzi, who was obsessed with the art of alchemy, was not keen on reciprocal courtesy. He preferred to directly discuss the art of alchemy. Therefore, Yuhaoran did not mind and directly gestured for Guzi to speak his mind. "Master Yu, this Valley Master has refined the 5 Lives mysterious pill gate 5 times. The first failure was due to the extraction of the spiritual herbs. The second failure was due to the seal forming of the pill, and the third failure was due to the lightning tribulation." After receiving Yuhaoran's approval, Guzi was happy and instantly had a good impression of him. He also took the opportunity to ask the question in his heart. "Grandmaster Yu, how did you ensure that the 108 spiritual medicines were all refined to the limit when refining the 5 Lives black pill for the first time?" "Valley Master, would you like to invite Grandmaster Yu to take a seat first before answering your questions?" Seeing that the Valley Master had asked his question, Xiang Wenshuan stood in place and stared at Yuhaoran. He felt that it was too rude and could not help but remind him. Oh, it was this Valley Master's fault. After hearing Xiang Wenshuan's reminder, Guzi realized his rudeness and apologized to Yuhaoran as he led him to a picturesque reception hall. After sitting down and indicating for the disciples to serve the spiritual fruits that the Valley of the Medicine Masters used to entertain the guests, Guzi looked at Yuhaoran expectantly. Although he was a little envious of the spiritual fruits on the table that could directly improve one's cultivation and soul, in the face of Guzi's expectant eyes, Yuhaoran could only answer his question first. "Valley Head, didn't Brother Xiang mention to you that he was the one who refined the 108 stalks of spiritual herbs?" After hearing Yuhaoran's reminder, Guzi's gaze turned to Xiang Wenshuan. Xiang Wenshuan hurriedly explained, "Valley Master, although the extraction of the 108 spiritual medicines was completed by me alone, the standards for the extraction of the spiritual medicines were refined according to Brother Yu's requirements in advance. Moreover, after the extraction of the spiritual medicines was completed, before the formation of the pill, Brother Yu also used a special method to further purify and compress the spiritual liquid." After hearing Xiang Wenshuan's explanation, Guzi's gaze turned back to Yuhaoran. "Valley Master, as a strong alchemist in the Alchemy Grandmaster realm, you must know that the extraction process of a pill needs a total of 2 times. Seeing that Xiang Wenshuan had pushed the fire of war back to himself, Yuhaoran knew that if he did not show some of his methods, he would not be able to attract the attention of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, nor would he be able to escape the questioning of Guzi like a student. Chapter 671, Medicine King Valley, in the living room. Although the second refining process of the spiritual medicine is very important, the second refining of the spiritual liquid using the condensing technique is directly related to whether the pill can be successfully formed in the end and the quality of the pill after the formation. Deliberately pointing out the importance of the second purification of the spiritual liquid, this was a way for Yuhaoran to show his ability. So, using the condensing technique to further refine the spiritual liquid's purity is related to my alchemy method. and this move directly blocked Gu Zi's idea of asking further. Okay. In the face of Yu Haoran's explanation, Gu Zi was obviously not satisfied. But as an alchemy grandmaster who was obsessed with alchemy, Gu Zi knew that alchemy recipes and alchemy techniques were the foundation of an alchemy master's survival. He had neither the qualification nor the ability, let alone the secrets of other survival. So, he could only skip the first question and continue to ask the second question in his heart. Master Yu, when condensing the 5 lives mysterious gate pill, how did you ensure that the spiritual power was evenly distributed during the compression process of the spiritual liquid? Facing Gu Zi's second question, Yu Haoran reached out and took out the 7th rank, 3rd grade snow pear fruit that could nourish the soul. While chewing it in big bites, he looked at Gu Zi with a smile that was not a smile. I know. In the face of Yu Haoran's response with a smile, Gu Zi suddenly answered himself helplessly. It's about your alchemy method. It's not easy to disclose it, right? Nodding, Yu Haoran ran the Great Mystery Heart Sutra cultivation method and began to absorb the energy transformed by the snow pear fruit to nourish and enhance the soul power of the divine soul. The third question, how did you ensure that the pill can withstand the attack of 3 lightning tribulations after it was out of the furnace? Gu Zi then asked the third question in his heart. As for Gu Zi's third question, Yu Haoran threw away the snow pear fruit that only had a core left. He picked up a fire phoenix cherry fruit that could also improve the soul and had reached the 5th grade of the 7th rank. After throwing it into his mouth, he still responded to Gu Zi's third question with a faint smile. In this regard, Gu Zi nodded even more helplessly and answered himself. I know. It's also related to the method of condensing the core, so it's not good to reveal it, right? However, after receiving Yu Haoran's nod of acknowledgement, many of the unsatisfied grains finally couldn't help but complain to Xiang Wenxuan. Wenxian, aren't you someone who is very easy to talk to, and is also very willing to raise each other's alchemy cultivation through exchanges? But now, in this Valley Master's opinion, there is no difference between a certain person and those selfish people. In the face of the Valley Master's complaints and mockery, Xiang Wenxuan looked at Yu Haoran helplessly with a pleading look in his eyes. In response, Yu Haoran obviously could not continue pretending. After spitting out the core of the fire phoenix cherry fruit, he smiled and said to Gu Zi, Valley Head, although this junior came to the Valley of the Medicine Masters because of Brother Xiang's warm invitation, this junior also has 3 personal matters that I need the Valley Head's help with. Speak. Hearing that Yu Haoran needed his help, Gu Zi, who was originally in a bad mood, immediately straightened his body and said in a businesslike manner, Since you have a favor to ask of me now, then let's see how I'm going to take revenge for being rejected just now. Looking at Yu Haoran from the corner of his eyes, Gu Zi planned proudly in his heart. The first matter, I need to continue to trouble Brother Xiang. In response to the sudden change in Gu Zi's attitude, Yu Haoran sneered in his heart, and then said with a smile on his face, Because this junior intends to open the furnace and continue to refine a 5 lives mysterious pill, I need Brother Xiang to help me continue to refine 108 spiritual medicines. Continue to refine the 5 lives mysterious pill. Yu Haoran's first personal matter immediately made Gu Zi's breathing become heavier. He looked at him with eyes full of anticipation. Without waiting for Gu Zi and Xiang Wenxuan to reply, Yu Haoran continued to make his second request. As for the second matter, I also need Brother Xiang's help. Because this junior intends to open the furnace and try to refine the rank 4 first grade Ice Heart J Bone Elixir, I also need Brother Xiang to help me refine 365 spiritual medicines. Not only did he want to refine the 5 lives mysterious pill, but he also intended to refine a higher grade Ice Heart J Bone Elixir that would also require one to pass through the lightning calamity and could help a quasi-martial honor pass through the body calamity. Yu Haoran's second request made Gu Zi, who was obsessed with the way of pills, put down his arrogance as the Valley Master of the Medicine Master and requested with a smile on his face. Master Yu, although Wenxuan's standards in the way of pills are not bad, compared to me, he is still inferior. The 5 Lives Mysterious Pill and the Ice Hard Jade Bone Elixir are both heaven-defying pills that exceed their own grade. The requirements for every refinement process are very strict, and there is no room for the slightest mistake. At this point, Guzi stood up and patted his chest in assurance. Therefore, in order to ensure the success of the refinement of the 5 Lives Mysterious Pill and the Ice Hard Jade Bone Elixir, I will personally help you with the entire refinement process. Faced with Guzi's initiative, Yu Haoran deliberately revealed a difficult expression. In fact, even if Guzi did not take the initiative to mention it, the refinement of the Ice Hard Jade Bone Elixir had to be done by him personally. This was because the refinement of 365 spiritual medicines not only had very strict requirements for one's alchemy cultivation, but it also had very high requirements for the alchemist's own cultivation. As the Valley Master of the Medicine Master Valley, Guzi's alchemy cultivation had not only reached the Alchemy Grandmaster realm, but his own martial cultivation had also reached the peak of the 6th grade martial saint realm. However, considering Guzi's personality of not being ashamed to ask questions, Yu Haoran was worried that during the process of condensing and nourishing the elixir, he would disturb him because of the doubts in his heart. Therefore, some things had to be agreed upon beforehand. This was also the reason why he used this method of provocation. Yu Haoran, could it be that you are not happy that I, the Valley Master of the Valley of the Medicine Masters and a Grandmaster of Alchemy, am willing to take the initiative to help you? Seeing Yu Haoran's awkward expression, Guzi immediately scolded him unhappily. Faced with the angry Guzi, Yu Haoran nodded and replied without the slightest fear. Valley Master, I am not afraid to offend you, but I am really not happy that you are willing to help me. What? Yu Haoran's ruthless rejection made Guzi even angrier. At the same time, he could not help but point at Xiang Wenshuan and question him. The one with the surname Yu. How am I inferior to Xiang Wenshuan? Brother Yu, the Valley Master's alchemy cultivation is older than mine, seeing that Yu Haoran had actually led the flames of war to himself. And because of him, the Valley Master had questioned him. Xiang Wenshuan hurriedly stepped forward to explain. However, before he could finish his explanation, Yu Haoran directly interrupted him. Valley Master, just as you said earlier, whether it is the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill or the Ice Hard Jade Bone Pill, they're all heaven-defying elixirs that exceed their own grade. Therefore, in the entire refining process of the elixir, in addition to the perfect refinement of the spiritual medicines, it also requires an absolutely quiet environment so that I can concentrate on the art of condensing the elixir. And you? Chapter 672, Medicine King Valley, in the living room. Surnamed Yu. You better make yourself clear to me. What's wrong with my character? Facing Yu Haoran, who shook his head in disappointment, Guzi couldn't help but shout angrily, as if he had been greatly humiliated. Valley Master, can you guarantee that during the entire process of refining pills, you will suppress the doubts in your heart and not disturb my refining? Facing Guzi's reprimand, Yu Haoran also stood up and asked with a serious expression. Valley Master, can you guarantee that during the entire process of refining pills, you will listen to my arrangements 100% and will not allow a trace of doubt or hesitation in your heart? Back then, the reason why Xiang Wenshuan was able to perfectly cooperate with him in refining the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill was because he relied on refining the detoxification pill and displayed his exquisite alchemy techniques, allowing him to wholeheartedly accept his help in refining the pill. And Guzi, he just heard from Xiang Wenshuan that he would not be convinced in his heart. Therefore, Yu Haoran needed to use an oath to bind him so that he could successfully refine the Ice Hard Jade Bone Pill. After all, refining the Ice Hard Jade Bone Pill required 365 kinds of spiritual herbs. He only had one set, and it was exchanged from the Meng family with the help of Emperor Qin. He couldn't allow himself to fail. In the face of Yu Haoran's continuous questioning, Guzi suddenly realized that it was not that the other party looked down on him. He was just worried that when they first met, he would be too inquisitive and affect the refining of the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill and the Ice Heart J-Bone Pill. Therefore, Guzi, who also knew his character flaw, didn't know how to refute Yu Haoran's questioning just now. Seeing that Guzi was left speechless by his question, Yu Haoran was secretly pleased with himself as he sat back down in his chair. He continued to choose spirit fruits that were suitable for him. He used the spirit fruits to increase his cultivation and soul power while giving Guzi ample time to think. After eating 3 different types of spiritual fruits in a row, Guzi finally thought it through and solemnly guaranteed to Yu Haoran, "Master Yu, this Valley Master swears to you that as long as you can let me assist in refining the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill and the Ice Heart J-Bone Pill, I promise that during the entire refining process, I will never disturb your refining." All right. To Guzi, who was obsessed with alchemy, being able to swear by his alchemy realm was no less than swearing by the laws of the heavenly Tao. Therefore, Yu Haoran could not continue to refuse and nodded in agreement. "Brother Yu, what's your 3rd private matter?" After agreeing to assist in alchemy, the atmosphere between the Valley Master and Yu Haoran instantly became harmonious. This made Xiang Wenxuan, who had been on tenterhooks, immediately relax. At the same time, he suddenly remembered that Yu Haoran had mentioned that he was invited to the Valley of the Medicine Masters for 3 personal matters. The refining of the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Elixir and the Ice Heart J-Bone Elixir were 2 of them. There was still a 3rd matter that he had not mentioned. "Valley Master, old brother Xiang, my 3rd private matter is related to the inheritance of the Honorable Apothecary in the herb field. I would like to try the inheritance." Yu Haoran thought about it for a moment and then said his 3rd request. In the face of Yu Haoran's 3rd request, Xiang Wenxuan, who was secretly excited, immediately turned his gaze to Guzi. After all, this was related to the inheritance of the Honorable Apothecary and was not something that an ordinary elder like him could decide. He needed the approval of the Valley Master and the head elder. There shouldn't be a problem. After thinking about it for a moment, Guzi nodded in agreement and gave the reason and method for agreeing. According to the rules of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, to accept the inheritance of the Honorable Apothecary, 3 conditions must be met. Alchemy at the Grandmaster level, an alchemist belonging to the Valley of the Medicine Masters, and the agreement of both the head elder and myself. Grandmaster use alchemy at the Grandmaster level, and with Wenxuan's guarantee, this is not a problem. Of course, I have no problems with this. As for the head elder who has always cherished alchemy geniuses, I believe he will not object. The only problem is his identity. Grandmaster, you could become a guest alchemist of the Valley of the Medicine Masters and help us refine some pills every 3 years. He only needed to provide some pills without any restrictions every 3 years. Yu Haoran considered the suggestion of becoming a guest alchemist for a moment before nodding in agreement. Grandmaster Yu, when do you intend to start refining pills? After resolving Yu Haoran's 3rd personal problem, Guzi's thoughts immediately returned to refining the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Elixir and the Ice Heart J-Bone Elixir. Valley Master, I'm a little tired from the long journey. In this state, I cannot refine pills. Therefore, I would like to rest for the night and start refining pills tomorrow morning. After calculating his time, Yu Haoran realized that he was very tight on time and decided to start refining pills as soon as possible. That's great. Hearing that Yu Haoran would start refining pills the next morning, Guzi was very happy. Then, he instructed Wenxuan, "Wenxuan, bring Grandmaster Yu to the Earth Source Pavilion to rest." "Valley Master, are you sure it's the Earth Source Pavilion?" Wenxuan asked in disbelief when he heard that Guzi had arranged for Yu Haoran to rest in the Earth Source Pavilion. Of course. Guzi, who was very clear about the significance of the Earth Source Pavilion, nodded and explained further. Apart from being Grandmaster Yu's temporary residence in the Medicine King Valley, the Earth Source Pavilion is also the place where he will refine the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Elixir and the Ice Heart J-Bone Elixir tomorrow. Understand. After hearing Guzi's further explanation, Xiang Wenxuan understood the real reason why he had arranged for Yu Haoran to stay in the Earth Source Pavilion. He nodded to express his understanding and stood up to leave. "Valley Master, I will bring Grandmaster Yu to the Earth Source Pavilion to rest now." "Go ahead." Guzi waved his hand and gestured. After leaving Guzi's courtyard, Xiang Wenxuan lowered his head and led the way without saying a word. Yu Haoran, who was following behind, felt that something was wrong and could only bear with it for the time being. However, when Xiang Wenxuan arrived at a courtyard that was not very big but was filled with scorching spirit energy, Yu Haoran had already guessed why Xiang Wenxuan had asked Gu Zi if the Earth Source Pavilion was suitable in the guest hall. This was because not only was the concentration of spirit energy in this courtyard not inferior to Gu Zi's courtyard in the slightest, but there was also an extremely outstanding earth core flame at the bottom of the courtyard. Brother Yu, now you know the real reason why I wanted to further confirm whether the place that the Valley Lord arranged for you to live in was suitable or not. Feeling the scorching spirit qi coming from the courtyard, Xiang Wenxuan sighed with envy. Understand. Chapter 673. Medicine King Valley, in front of the Earth Origin Pavilion. After guiding the spirit qi of heaven and earth into his body, Yu Haoran was pleasantly surprised to find that the spirit qi of the Earth Origin Pavilion, mixed with the Earth Origin flame, could not only greatly increase the grade of his physical body, it could also increase his cultivation while purifying the impurities in his yuan power. What shocked him even more was that the spirit qi of the Earth Origin flame could also increase the strength of his spirit while refining his soul power. Thus, Yu Haoran, who felt the extraordinary spirit qi of heaven and earth, immediately informed his two clones to use the spirit qi of heaven and earth to increase their cultivation and strength through the guidance of his sea of consciousness. Brother Yu, in our Medicine King Valley, there are a total of 3 courtyards with the densest spirit qi and the most unique environments. After calming his envy, Xiang Wenxuan explained as he pushed open the doors to the courtyards. Dual origins of heaven and earth, heart of the spirit vein. The heart of the spirit vein refers to the immortal fate pavilion where the Valley Master currently resides. The spirit qi in the immortal fate pavilion is like smoke and is as beautiful as a fairyland. It is ranked 3rd in the Medicine King Valley. Yu Haoran nodded in agreement as he continued to guide the spirit qi into his body. Ethereal, like a fairyland, like a celestial being. The courtyard where the Valley Master resides is worthy of being called a fairyland. After hearing Yu Haoran's praise, Xiang Wenxuan nodded in agreement and continued to introduce the other 2 courtyards. Dual origins of heaven and earth refers to the Heavenly Origin Pavilion and the Earth Origin Pavilion. They are the courtyards that the Medicine King Valley uses to receive the most distinguished guests. The Earth Origin Pavilion is ranked 2nd, and the Heavenly Origin Pavilion is ranked 1st. Xiang Wenxuan turned to look at Yu Haoran and asked, Brother Yu, do you know which courtyard the Valley Master arranged for the Emperor Qin of the Great Emperor Qin when he came to visit the Medicine King Valley 2 years ago? Shaking his head, Yu Haoran indicated that he could not guess. Sealed Moon Pavilion, 2nd only to the dual origins of heaven and earth. Xiang Wenxuan said with a complicated expression. I understand. Although Xiang Wenxuan didn't say it directly, Yu Haoran knew what he meant. Therefore, while indicating that he understood, Yu Haoran also entrusted Xiang Wenxian to convey his gratitude on behalf of the Valley Master. Brother Yu, the distance from the 100 Qi Gate to Medicine King's Valley is more than 30,000 kilometers. Even with the help of your pet beast, I'm sure you're exhausted from the long journey. Seeing that Yu Haoran had accepted the Valley Master's sincerity, Xiang Wenxuan felt gratified and took the opportunity to bid farewell. So, I'll be heading back first. Tomorrow morning, I'll accompany the Valley Master to assist you in refining pills. Brother Xiang, Yu Haoran gestured for Xiang Wenxuan to stop for the time being. He thought for a moment and finally asked, The reason why the Earth Genesis Pavilion is superior to the Immortal Affinity Pavilion is because of the extremely high-quality Earth core flame hidden beneath the Earth Genesis Pavilion. I wonder what's so special about the Heavenly Genesis Pavilion that's even more outstanding than the Earth Genesis Pavilion. In the face of Yu Haoran's questioning, Xiang Wenxuan's face immediately revealed a troubled expression. Ever since the Heavenly Genesis Pavilion had been built, it had never been opened to the public. The reason was that the Heavenly Genesis Pavilion hid a unique treasure that could make all alchemists and artificers go crazy. Brother Xiang, since it's not convenient for you to answer, just pretend that I didn't say anything. Seeing the awkward expression on Xiang Wenxuan's face, Yu Haoran immediately put on an understanding gesture and gestured. Brother Yu, thank you. Seeing that Yu Haoran was no longer asking about the secrets of the Heavenly Genesis Pavilion, Xiang Wenxuan breathed a long sigh of relief and thanked him before turning to leave the Earth Genesis Pavilion. Thaling, can I trouble you to use your divine sense to check the Medicine King's Valley and see if there are any strange courtyards with a similar environment to the Earth Genesis Pavilion, but with a stronger burning aura? After Xiang Wenxuan left the Earth Genesis Pavilion, Yu Haoran directly contacted Thaling in his knowledge, intending to use his own methods to investigate the secrets of the Heavenly Genesis Pavilion. No, actually, even without Yu Haoran's instructions, Thaling had already tried to use his divine sense to observe the environment of the Medicine King's Valley the moment they entered, but the results were not optimistic. The entire Medicine King's Valley not only has a protective formation that restricts divine sense, but there's also a spirit vein that has its own consciousness under the Medicine King's Valley. It completely protects several important places in the Medicine King's Valley, making it impossible for divine sense to approach. After hearing Thaling's explanation, Yu Haoran could not help but frown slightly. He had not expected that the secrets hidden in the Medicine King's Valley far exceeded what he knew in his previous life. What made him feel even more helpless was whether the high grade 3 spirit vein, which already had its own consciousness, was constantly monitoring every movement in the Medicine King's Valley. If it was, then how could he make use of the opportunity of being a guest to directly capture Zhao Qing alive? However, this problem only troubled him for less than 3 seconds. Because if the high grade 3 spirit vein had its own consciousness, if it was constantly monitoring every movement of the people in the Medicine King's Valley, then Zhao Qing, who wanted to devour his Pill Dao talent, would definitely have a way to hide from the spirit vein's consciousness. At that time, he could make use of Zhao Qing's means to hide from the spirit vein's consciousness. As for the secret of the Tianyuan Pavilion, although he could not use his divine sense to confirm it, Yu Haoran could basically guess that the Tianyuan Pavilion was hiding a heavenly fire that could drive alchemists and weaponsmiths crazy. Although he was very tempted by the heavenly fire, he knew that with his current strength, trying to capture and refine the heavenly fire was undoubtedly a suicidal attempt. Hence, temporarily dispelling the idea of checking out the Tianyuan Pavilion, Yu Haoran stepped in the loft in the courtyard and found a room with the densest spirit chi. He then used the spirit chi to attempt a breakthrough in his physical body grade. When his cultivation had broken through to the martial ancestor realm, his physical body grade had already reached the peak of 3rd grade martial ancestor. Back then, he had been limited by the disappearance of the stars and had not succeeded in breaking through to 4th grade martial ancestor. The spirit chi in the Tianyuan Pavilion had greatly increased the physical body grade and was not at all inferior to the power of the stars gathered by the formation. Sitting cross-legged on the wooden bed in the room, Yu Haoran simultaneously circulated the Great Mystery Heart Sutra and the Astral Dome Mantra, intending to break through to the peak of 1st grade martial ancestor at the same time as his physical body grade. After all, he had consumed 5 spirit fruits that contained powerful spirit chi and soul power in the guest hall. At the same time, he had reached the peak of 1st grade martial ancestor and had the opportunity to break through the bottleneck. How could he let go of such a good opportunity? As he circulated the Great Mystery Heart Sutra and the Astral Dome Mantra at the same time, countless spirit chi containing the spirit chi of heaven and earth was forcefully absorbed into his body. After absorbing a certain amount of spirit chi, Yu Haoran used the enormous amount of spirit chi to break through the bottleneck of his physical body grade. Chapter 674 Medicine King Valley, Earth Source Pavilion. just as his physical body successfully broke through to the beginner 4th grade of Martial Grandmaster. His physical body instantly increased the absorption of the scorching spiritual energy, stimulating the Great Mystery Heart Sutra. The Great Mystery Heart Sutra forcefully intercepted the scorching spiritual energy that was originally used to increase the physical body's grade and started to break through the bottleneck of the peak of 1st grade of Martial Grandmaster. Similarly, the bottleneck of the peak of 1st grade of Martial Grandmaster only lasted for less than 5 seconds under the impact of the huge amount of scorching spiritual energy. His cultivation successfully broke through to the beginner 2nd grade of Martial Grandmaster. After his cultivation and physical body broke through at the same time, Yu Haoran did not immediately stop absorbing the scorching spiritual energy. He continued to use the rich, scorching spiritual energy to consolidate his breakthrough. 2 hours later, after he had completely consolidated his cultivation and physical body, Yu Haoran looked at the sky outside and realized that it was only midnight. There was still a long time before daybreak. Therefore, he continued to use the Great Mystery Heart Sutra and Star Dough Arts to continue increasing his cultivation and physical body's grade. The stars and moon set, the sun rose from the east. As the red sun slowly rose, Yu Haoran, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, slowly opened his eyes. Phew! After exhaling the turbid air that had accumulated in his chest after his breakthrough, Yu Haoran directly got off the bed. He stepped out of the loft and stood in the courtyard. Then he spread out his divine thought to find the best place to refine the 5 Lives Mysterious Gate Elixir and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir. Finally, about 19 meters away from the entrance of the courtyard, his divine thought felt the highest temperature and knew that this was the best place to refine the elixir. Walking to the best place, Yu Haoran bent his knees and sat down cross-legged. Then he took out some elixirs and some spiritual herbs. He planned to refine some elixirs that were suitable for the Martial Grandmaster realm before refining the 5 Lives Mysterious Gate Elixir. The 7th level Rising Dragon Elixir was suitable for the soul of a Martial Grandmaster realm cultivator. It could increase the soul's growth speed and was the most suitable elixir for a talented disciple to reach the Martial Grandmaster realm. The level 9 Yuan Yang pill could greatly increase the Dantian's origin energy. It could also assist in breaking through a small realm. Similarly, it was the most suitable pill for a monstrously talented disciple to advance to the Martial Ancestor realm. 6th level, 1st grade Divine Benefit pill, one of the ancient medicinal pills. Its medicinal power was mild, and it lasted for a long time. It was very suitable for nourishing the divine soul, and it was a top-notch medicinal pill that could increase the toughness of the divine soul. After careful consideration and considering the number of spirit herbs he had, he finally chose 5 types of top-notch elixirs that targeted the soul, origin energy, and physical body. He took a deep breath and adjusted his breathing. When his breathing stabilized and his essence, energy, and spirit reached their peak, he directly mobilized the power of his Dantian to drive the fire of the pill furnace. However, after the fire in the furnace was ignited, Yu Haoran did not immediately throw in the spiritual herbs. This was because he discovered that the alchemy furnace that drove the alchemy fire had begun to absorb the earth's core flame from underground, increasing the power of the alchemy furnace's own alchemy fire. Yu Haoran, I'm going to teach you a fire-controlling secret technique. Then, use it to raise the level of the pill flame in the furnace. Thaling, who had also noticed the abnormal fire in the furnace, immediately reminded him. Raising the level of the alchemy fire can speed up the recovery of the alchemy furnace's grade. Thaling, fire-controlling secret technique. The higher the level of the alchemy fire and the higher the grade of the alchemy furnace, the more beneficial it would be for increasing the success rate of refining elixirs. Therefore, when faced with the opportunity to restore the alchemy furnace's grade, Yu Haoran immediately extinguished the idea of refining elixirs. He planned to use the fire-controlling secret technique to help the alchemy furnace recover from its previous injuries. Thowling used his divine will to condense the fire-controlling secret technique and directly transmitted it into Yu Haoran's sea of consciousness. After carefully reading the fire-controlling secret technique, Yu Haoran discovered that the fire-controlling secret technique was both a secret technique to control flames and a martial technique that could make use of flames to attack. This made him very happy. Although the fire-controlling secret technique was a little complicated, under the continuous increase of his comprehension, he could use the fire-controlling secret technique to forcibly extract the Earth's core flame from underground in half an hour to help raise the alchemy furnace's grade. Brother Yu, are you ready? Just as Yu Haoran was using the fire-controlling secret technique to raise the alchemy furnace's grade, Xiang Wenxuan's voice came from outside the Earth Source Pavilion. Brother Hao. Hearing Xiang Wenxuan's voice from outside the courtyard, Yu Haoran immediately called out to the first clone that was using the victor to forcibly absorb the scorching spiritual energy of the Earth Source Pavilion to raise its cultivation and strength. Brother Yu. Hearing Yu Haoran's call, the first clone instantly appeared in his sea of consciousness. Brother Hao fuse. Yu Haoran ordered his first avatar as his consciousness merged with his divine sense and entered his knowledge sea. Yu Haoran instructed after briefly fusing with his body and imparting the fire control secret technique that he had comprehended to his first clone. Brother Hao, I need to deal with some people from the Medicine King Valley, so I'll leave it to you to use the fire-controlling secret technique to extract the Earth's core flame and help restore the alchemy furnace's grade. Brother Yu, don't worry, I'll do it. Hearing Yu Haoran's instructions, the first clone nodded and directly used the fire-controlling secret technique to replace Yu Haoran in the alchemy furnace's absorption of the Earth's core flame. Brother Xiang, come in. After the first clone successfully took over his work, Yu Haoran took out a portion of his spiritual herbs and gestured as if he was preparing to work. Brother Yu, I'm really sorry. I was delayed by some matters in the morning, so I'm a little late. Seeing that Yu Haoran had already activated the alchemy furnace's fire and was preparing to refine the pills, Xiang Wenxuan hurriedly explained. Brother Xiang, it's all right. I don't plan to refine the 5 Lives Mystery Gate pill and Ice Heart Jade Bone pill immediately. I'll make use of the special environment of the Earth Source Pavilion to refine some pills that can raise the martial ancestor realm. Yu Haoran smiled and consoled him. Then, he saw that Xiang Wenxuan was the only one who had entered the Earth Source Pavilion. He couldn't help but frown. Brother Xiang, where's the Valley Master? Grains were an indispensable part of the refining of the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill. After all, only the Valley Master and the First Elder, who had reached the Alchemy Grandmaster realm, could refine the 365 spiritual herbs. If the Valley Master didn't appear, he could only put the refining of the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill on hold. In that case, he would lack a sufficient betrothal gift and would also break his promise to Emperor Qin. Therefore, Yu Haoran hurriedly asked, Brother Yu, don't worry. The Valley Master will be here soon. Xiang Wenxuan hurriedly explained when he sensed a trace of dissatisfaction in Yu Haoran's questioning tone. That's good. Hearing that Grains hadn't failed to keep his promise, Yu Haoran secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He signaled Xiang Wenxuan to wait for a while and used the opportunity of inspecting the spiritual herbs to continue observing the progress of the alchemy furnace's fire. Brother Yu, I have a presumptuous request, but I don't know if I should ask. Seeing that Yu Haoran's attention had returned to refining the pills, Xiang Wenxuan thought for a while and finally braced himself to ask. Chapter 675, Valley of the Medicine Masters, Earth Source Pavilion. Apart from his good relationship with Xiang Wenxuan, it was also because he had just discovered that the pill fire in his cauldron was about to level up. The success of the pill fire meant that he could start refining the 5 types of pills that he had planned. Brother Yu, our Valley of the Medicine Masters has a total of 13 pill masters and 18 elite disciples with exceptional talent. Yu Haoran's encouragement made Xiang Wenxuan finally decide to make an embarrassing request. The Valley Master hopes that the 13 pill Dao Grandmasters and the 18 talented disciples will be able to observe Brother's pill refining process, and technique. Hearing Xiang Wenxuan's request, Yu Haoran raised his eyebrows slightly as a trace of hesitation flashed across his heart. Actually, it was not too much to ask for the opportunity to observe his pill refining process and techniques to broaden their horizons and increase their knowledge of pill refining. After all, the Earth Source Pavilion was still the territory of the Medicine Master's Valley. Furthermore, the Five Lives Mystery Gate pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill required Gu Zi to use his pill refining skills to refine the perfect spirit liquid. But there were too many people watching, especially those disciples with average pill refining skills, who might disturb his pill refining process because of some shocking methods. After hearing Yu Haoran's concerns, Xiang Wenxuan smiled and promised, "Brother Yu, you can rest assured on this point. The 18 disciples with exceptional talent are all elite disciples that we have carefully selected for their mental fortitude. Not to mention the Five Lives Mystery Gate pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill that you refined. Even when the Valley Head and Head Elder worked together to refine the Level 4 9th grade Purple Heart Barrier Breaking pill, their performance was outstanding." All right then, since Xiang Wenxuan had already made a promise, it would be unreasonable if he didn't agree. Yu Haoran could only nod in agreement. However, when he thought about how the 31 pill masters from the Valley of the Medicine Masters would benefit greatly from his refining of the Five Lives Mystery Gate pill and the Ice Heart J-Bone pill, he felt that he was losing out. Therefore, how could he, who had always believed in not losing out, allow the pill masters from the Valley of the Medicine Masters to take advantage of him? "Brother Xiang, you see, I've already made such a huge sacrifice. Shouldn't your Medicine King Valley also come up with some compensation?" Yu Haoran looked at Xiang Wenxuan with a faint smile. "Brother Yu, I understand the rules." He didn't show any dissatisfaction because Yu Haoran took the initiative to ask for compensation. Xiang Wenxian nodded to indicate that he understood and threw him a storage pouch. Scanning the storage bag with his divine sense, he found that there were 10,000 6th grade spirit stones, 107th grade to 5th grade spirit herbs, and 9 types of 7th grade to 5th grade spirit fruits. "Brother Xiang, thank you." Yu Haoran was satisfied that when Xian was able to provide such a generous compensation just for being a spectator. He also thanked Wen Xian. Seeing that Yu Haoran was satisfied with his compensation, Xiang Wenxian secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He hurriedly indicated that he would leave the Earth Source Pavilion for the time being so that he could arrange for the Grandmasters and disciples to come and observe. In response, Yu Haoran nodded in agreement and began to use the fire of the newly upgraded cauldron to refine the 5 types of pills that he had planned from the beginning. A 7th grade 1,000 ginseng grass was thrown into the cauldron, and Yuan Li was used to increase the power of the cauldron's fire. In just 10 seconds, the 1,000 ginseng grass was completely refined into a ball of pure spirit liquid. Seeing that the cauldron's fire was 3 times faster than before, Yu Haoran couldn't help but feel ecstatic. This was because the cauldron's fire not only increased the refining speed and purity of the pills, it also increased the success rate of refining the pills. Taking a deep breath, he forcefully suppressed the ecstasy in his heart and quickly threw in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th stalks of spirit herbs. 13 minutes later, 9 ascension pills that contained a cloud of mist were stored in a pill bottle. After carefully sensing the consumption of his energy when refining the ascension pills, Yu Haoran discovered that it wasn't much. He continued to use Yuan Li to drive the fire and began to refine the 2nd type of pill that he had planned beforehand, the 7th grade Yuanyang pill. After refining the spirit herbs, condensing the pills, splitting the pills, and finally forming the pills, 9 Yuanyang pills that emitted a trace of scorching aura were stored in a pill bottle that he had prepared beforehand. Yu Haoran, who was engrossed in refining pills, did not notice that people were continuously entering the Earth Origin Pavilion. Every single person who entered the Earth Origin Pavilion was instantly shocked and attracted by his alchemy technique. Afterwards, they quietly observed his alchemy technique. It was precisely because of the cauldron's fire that the 5 types of peak grade pills that would have originally taken more than 3 hours to refine were completed in less than an hour. Furthermore, what made Yu Haoran even happier was that not only was every type of pill successfully refined, but when the pills were completed, there were 9 pills in total. Yu Haoran happily kept the 9 pills after the 5th type of pill was completed. Just as he was about to check if the Valley Head and Xiang Wenxuan had arrived, he was shocked by the crowd in front of him. "Brother Xiang, what's going on?" Yu Haoran asked in dissatisfaction as he pointed to the crowd of over 31 people in front of him. Faced with Yu Haoran's questioning, Xiang Wenxuan did not know how to explain. Originally, according to the number of people that he and the Valley Head had agreed on, 13 pill masters and 18 disciples with exceptional talent would be present to observe. However, as pill masters of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, they more or less had disciples and family members that they valued. Furthermore, these pill masters did not even discuss with him before bringing their disciples and family members to observe. As a result, the number of people entering the Earth Source Pavilion far exceeded the number that they had agreed on, reaching an astonishing double. Valley Head. Without Xiang Wenxuan's explanation, Yu Haoran could already guess the reason for so many people present. He also knew that with Xiang Wenxuan's status, he would not be able to handle the trouble before him. Therefore, his gaze turned directly to Gu Zi, who was standing behind Xiang Wenxuan and had no intention of stepping forward to solve the problem. "Grandmaster Yu, the disciples that were added at the last minute are all genius disciples who are obsessed with the way of the pill. Faced with their request to observe the way of the pill, I am too embarrassed to refuse." Seeing Yu Haoran's gaze turn to him, Gu Zi could only stand in front of Xiang Wenxuan and explain helplessly. Yu Haoran sighed in disappointment at Valley Head Gu Zi's inaction. He stood up and put away the pill furnace in front of him, then turned and walked towards the loft. "Grandmaster Yu, what is the meaning of this?" Seeing Yu Haoran directly put away the pill furnace and then silently return to the attic, an alchemy grandmaster with a head of snow-white hair, who was even older than a grain, questioned with a displeased expression. Chapter 676. Valley of the Medicine Masters in the Earth Source Pavilion. I am Xiang Jia, a peak alchemy grandmaster. I am the 7th elder of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The white-haired elder replied arrogantly. "Grandmaster Xia, since you are also a peak alchemy grandmaster, you must know that alchemists need an absolutely quiet environment when refining high-grade pills. They cannot be disturbed in the slightest." At this point, Yu Haoran pointed at the 5 disciples standing beside him who were only martial masters and martial grandmasters. "Do you dare to refine pills with someone with such a low mental state and a tyrannical aura by your side?" "Grandmaster Yu, don't slander me. How can my disciples' mental fortitude be low? How can his Yuan Qi contain such a tyrannical aura?" Faced with Yu Haoran's questioning, Xia Yingjia's face instantly darkened. "Grandmaster Xia, you are also a peak 9th grade martial emperor. You can sense everything with your divine sense. Don't tell me you don't know the real situation of your disciple." Although Xia Yingjia was deliberately asking for trouble, considering his position in the Valley of the Medicine Masters and his special relationship with the head elder, Yu Haoran could only patiently explain in order to avoid affecting the Master Apothecary's legacy. "Grandmaster Yu, I have already used my divine sense to check. I did not find anything unusual about my disciple." Xia Yingjie clearly did not use his divine sense to check, but he acted as if he would do whatever he said to warn Yu Haoran. This was the territory of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. As a foreign alchemy grandmaster, what he needed to do was to be obedient. In response, Yu Haoran could not help but laugh coldly. Then, without a word, he turned and continued to walk towards the loft. "You, what do you mean by this?" Seeing Yu Haoran ignore him, Xia Yingjie roared angrily. "You with the surname Xia, don't be so shameless. There is a limit to my patience." Yu Haoran, who was also enraged, threatened Xia Yingjie with a murderous aura. "Do you believe that I would dare to destroy you right now?" Ouch! In the face of Yu Haoran's threat, Xia Yingjie couldn't help but let out a strange cry, and then mocked with a face full of contempt. I've seen countless arrogant people in my life, but it's the first time I've seen someone as arrogant as you. At this point, Xia Yingjie suddenly left the crowd and stood 3 meters away from Yu Haoran before speaking in a provocative tone. I'm standing right here. Let's see if you have the guts to make a move. Brother don't be rash. After seeing the murderous aura that flashed in Yu Haoran's eyes, when Xian panicked and reminded Yu Haoran when he was in the Qingyao Pavilion of the Qingyuan Guild Hall in Xianyang City, ignoring the threat of the forces behind the third prince Qin Tianyi and Meng Sheng. Unfortunately, Yu Haoran, who was completely enraged, would not choose to stop just because of Xiang Wenxuan's reminder. Black Bear, destroy him for me. Yu Haoran roared at Black Bear, who was crawling in the corner and was also using the Scorching Spirit Qi to increase his strength. Black Bear, who acted according to Yu Haoran's orders and ignored any threats, immediately raised his huge bear paw after hearing Yu Haoran's order. Under the incredulous gazes of the crowd and Xia Yingjie, he directly smashed Xia Yingjie into a meat patty. Boom! As Black Bear retracted his bear paw, the crowd's gazes turned pale when they saw the pile of meat patty on the ground. How could you do that? Valley Master Gu Zi asked in disbelief as he pointed at Yu Haoran. Valley Master, if you go out and ask about Yu Haoran's style of doing things and his lawless character, then when faced with Xia Yingjie's provocation just now, what you needed to do was not to hide behind, but to stop him. After killing Xia Yingjie, Yu Haoran once again returned to his lawless character in the 100 Qi Gate and Xianyang City. Even in the face of Gu Zi's questioning, he was not afraid at all, as he pointed out tyrannically. So, for the death of Elder Xia Yingjie, you have to bear at least half of the responsibility. Ever since he took over the position of Valley Master, with the special status of the Valley of the Medicine Masters in the Tianxian continent and his own strong alchemy skills, no one had ever dared to point out or slander him. Not even the sect masters of the top sects. Not even the palace master of the Yushu Temple. Therefore, in the face of Yu Haoran's tyrannical accusations and slander, Gu Zi could not accept it at all, but he also could not refute it. Brother quickly calm down. I will persuade the Valley Master. Seeing Yu Haoran looking at the Valley Master with an unfriendly gaze after killing Xia Yingjie, Xiang Wenxuan knew that the actions of the Valley of the Medicine Masters had truly enraged Yu Haoran. Thinking of Yu Haoran's lawless character, ignoring all threats, and thinking of his vengeful style, Xiang Wenxuan was worried that Yu Haoran might really disregard everything and let the Black Bear kill the Valley Master. So he hurried forward to persuade him. Brother Xiang, my emotions are too agitated today. It is not good for refining the 5 Lives Black Pill sect and the Ice Heart J-Bone elixir, so we will talk about refining the elixir another day. Seeing the pleading look in Xiang Wenxuan's eyes, Yu Haoran thought of the affection he had for him and finally sighed, calming the murderous intent in his heart, and said in disappointment. Then, he turned and walked into the loft. Too much. Seeing Yu Haoran turn and walk into the loft, Gu Zi, who seemed to have suffered a great humiliation, couldn't help but roar and criticize him. Valley Master, can I have a word with you? Seeing the Valley Master roaring like thunder, Xiang Wenxuan also felt a headache. But in order to ease the grudge between Yu Haoran and the Valley of the Medicine Masters, in order to use the 5 Lives Black Pill and the Ice Heart J-Bone elixir to increase the strength and reputation of the Medicine Masters Valley, he could only try his best to appease the Valley Master's anger. Valley Master, to be honest, the responsibility for today's conflict does not lie with the Grand Masters. Bringing Gu Zi to a room on the first floor of the loft, Xiang Wenxuan said solemnly after closing the door. Wenxuan, even if the fault for today's conflict lies with Elder Xia, that you person can't just kill people as he pleases. Seeing Xiang Wenxuan begin to shirk responsibility for Yu Haoran, Gu Zi criticized him with dissatisfaction. What's more, this is the Medicine Master's Valley, our territory, not the 100 Qi Gate where Yu Haoran can do whatever he wants. Valley Master, in fact, in the eyes of my brother, there is no sense of territory at all, because his character is like this. Chapter 677, Valley of the Medicine Masters, Earth Source Pavilion. Wen Xian, how could someone with Yu Haoran's personality be able to survive until now? After hearing Xiang Wenshuan's detailed explanation, Gu Zi's anger gradually subsided as he exclaimed in disbelief. Perhaps it's because his luck is heaven-defying. Faced with the Valley Master's disbelief, Xiang Wenshuan also didn't know how to explain. In the end, he could only attribute it to luck. Then, Xiang Wenshuan hurriedly returned to the topic at hand and asked, Valley Master, what do you think about Brother Yu's matter? Wen Xian, Xiaoyingjie is not only a peak alchemy grandmaster, but also a direct elder of our Valley of the Medicine Masters. Although the responsibility for the conflict lies with Xiaoyingjie, if we choose to keep the peace and let Yu Haoran off, what will the other elders in the valley think of us? Faced with Xiang Wenshuan's interrogation, Gu Zi said with a headache, Moreover, I'm worried that it will be difficult to explain to the Great Elder. After all, Xiaoyingjie is also the Great Elder's most trusted right-hand man. Valley Master, if we can't settle the grudge between Yu Haoran and the Valley of the Medicine Masters, not only will we not be able to obtain the refining methods of the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill and Ice Heart J-Bone Pill from Yu Haoran, but we will also offend a demon with a bright future. For our Valley of the Medicine Masters, I'm afraid this will be a disaster with no benefits. Seeing that the Valley Master was unwilling to let Yu Haoran off, Xiang Wenshuan couldn't help but remind him. Wen Xian, I remember that Elder Zhao seems to be able to communicate with the people on the other side. Do you think we can use the secret technique that they have to completely extract Yu Haoran's soul and obtain his refining methods and experience? After hearing Xiang Wenshuan's reminder, Gu Zi thought for a while with a heavy expression, then finally suggested with a fierce look. Valley Master, how can you have such an idea? Capture him alive and use the secret technique of the Demon Dao to extract Yu Haoran's soul and obtain the refining methods of the 5 Lives Mystery Gate Pill and Ice Heart J-Bone Pill. After hearing the Valley Master's cruel suggestion, Xiang Wenshuan felt terrified and looked at Gu Zi in disbelief. It was as if he didn't recognize this kind old man that he had always respected. Wen Xian, as the saying goes, a man with a small heart is not a gentleman, and a man without poison is not a man. In the face of the frightened Xiang Wenshuan, Gu Zi sneered without the slightest care and said with a ferocious expression, Since we can no longer coexist peacefully with Yu Haoran, why don't we strike first to gain the upper hand and avoid Yu Haoran's revenge in the future? Valley Master, I disagree. Xiang Wenshuan shook his head vigorously as he strongly objected. Brother Yu, you came to our Valley of the Medicine Masters alone because I, Xiang Wenshuan, invited you, and because you believe in my character. I cannot go back on my word. What's more, let's not talk about whether we can use the secret technique to preserve the integrity of Brother Yu's soul. If the news leaks out, I'm afraid there will be no place for our Valley of the Medicine Masters in the Tianxin continent. Moreover, Brother Yu is not only the deputy sect master of the 100 Qi Gate, but also the prince consort of the Emperor Qin's kingdom. He is highly regarded by the Emperor Qin and is not someone we can touch. Before Xiang Wenshuan could finish his strong objection, he suddenly felt a pain in the back of his chest. Then, his soul was violently attacked, and he fell into a trance. Valley Master, you. Using the last trace of consciousness before his soul fainted, Xiang Wenshuan pointed at Gu Zi and wanted to ask something in disbelief. But in the end, he didn't say a word and fell directly to the ground. Wenshuan, your character is too kind and is not suitable for this environment of mutual deception. So, I can only do my best to raise the strength and reputation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters to the point where no one dares to provoke us. Only in this way can kind people like you be able to live without worries. Looking at Xiang Wenshuan, who had fainted on the ground, Gu Zi sighed with a complicated expression. Then, he shouted outside the door, Elder Zhao Qing, come in for a moment. Valley Master, this is... After entering the room and seeing the unconscious Xiang Wenshuan on the ground, Zhao Qing immediately asked cautiously, Some things are not suitable for Wenshuan to interfere in, so I let him rest for a while. After casually explaining the reason for Xiang Wenshuan's unconsciousness, Guzi looked directly into Zhao Qing's eyes and asked, "How long does it take to contact the people on the other side?" "Valley Master, what do you mean by people on the other side? I don't know what you're talking about." Guzi's direct questioning caused Zhao Qing to be taken aback. He continued to maintain a high level of vigilance as he pretended to be confused and asked, "Zhao Qing, I'll tell you the truth. The Valley of the Medicine Master's hidden methods are far beyond your imagination. I know everything that you have done in secret, including using the secret techniques that they taught you to devour and integrate other people's talents." Guzi coldly glanced at Zhao Qing as he threatened with a cold expression on his face. "So, you'd better be obedient. Otherwise, I don't mind sending you to accompany Xiangjie right now." All right. The information that Guzi had just revealed made Zhao Qing feel a chill run down his spine. At the same time, he wanted to turn and flee the Earth Source Pavilion and the Valley of the Medicine Masters. He had never imagined that the Valley Master, who usually seemed to be obsessed with the Tao of pills and stood aloof from worldly affairs, was actually a person who hid even deeper than him and was even more scheming than him. However, when he saw Guzi's cold expression and thought about how his cultivation was far above his own and how he controlled the entire Valley of the Medicine Master's array, he knew that he had no hope of escaping. In the end, he could only confess helplessly, "Valley Master, if we use a large amount of high-quality spirit stones, we should be able to contact the people on the other side within 5 hours. In that case, follow me back to the Immortal Fate Pavilion. I have something to discuss with the people on the other side." "Valley Master, what happened to Elder Xiang?" Seeing Guzi walk to the door, Zhao Qing pointed at the unconscious Xiang Wenshuan and asked, "The immortal spirit powder refined from the black dragon's saliva. Let him rest here for a few days." Guzi turned his head to look at Xiang Wenshuan, who was lying on the ground. In order not to affect the upcoming plan, he could only harden his heart and let him stay in the room for the time being. "Elder Ning, please go upstairs and inform Grandmaster Yu that the Earth Source Pavilion needs to be closed for a period of time due to some special reasons. Please let him stay in the Autumn Water Pavilion for a while." After leaving the room, Guzi did not explain how he would deal with the outcome of Yu Haoran killing Xiangjie. He also did not explain why Xiang Wenshuan, who had entered the room together with him, did not appear at the same time. He only instructed one of the Pill Dao sect's elders in the courtyard. "Yes," Elder Ning answered and walked into the attic. Chapter 678. Valley of the Medicine Masters, Earth Source Pavilion. After ordering the Black Bear to kill Xiangjie, Yu Haoran returned to his room in the pavilion and sat cross-legged on the bed. He breathed in and out at a regular rate to adjust his fluctuating emotions caused by the boundless killing intent. He then waited for Guzi and Xiang Wenshuan to come up and apologize. His reckless killing of Xiangjie seemed to be a moment of impulse, but it was actually the result of careful consideration. Yu Haoran knew very well that the refining method of the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill and the Ice Heart J-Bone Pill was a fatal temptation to Guzi, who was obsessed with the way of pills. Under the influence of this fatal temptation, not only would he not blame himself for his impulse to kill Xiangjie, he would even actively shirk responsibility for himself. His goal was to continue refining pills so that he could use the process of assisting in the refining process to learn and comprehend and eventually master the refining method of the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill and the Ice Heart J-Bone Pill. Because mastering this refining method would not only increase the reputation and strength of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, it would also be of unimaginable help in increasing his own cultivation in the way of pills. However, the development of the situation was beyond Yu Haoran's expectations. After that, not only did Guzi and Xiang Wenshuan not come to apologize, but he also received a warning from Thaling in his sea of consciousness. Perhaps it was because Guzi was too confident in the formation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters that could block divine sense. Or perhaps it was because Yu Haoran's martial ancestor level of cultivation was too low, causing him to subconsciously lower his guard. Therefore, when he revealed his thoughts to Xiang Wenxuan, he did not expect that someone would be able to break through the protection of the formation and eavesdrop on his conversation with Xiang Wenxuan and Zhao Qing. This also allowed Thaling to understand his sinister plan in time. After hearing Thaling describe in detail everything that happened in the room downstairs, the shock on Yu Haoran's face was gradually replaced by seriousness. Initially, the reason why he had agreed to let Guzi assist in refining the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill was completely based on his understanding of him in his previous life. He knew that he was a pill refiner who was completely obsessed with the way of pills and had no intention of fighting for power, nor was he too ambitious. Otherwise, how could nearly 80% of the power in the Valley of the Medicine Masters be in the hands of the head elder alone? However, after listening to Thaling's explanation, Yu Haoran realized that his observation and understanding of human nature were too blind and overconfident. Thaling, thank you. Taking a deep breath and suppressing the shock in his heart, Yu Haoran first thanked the Thaling in his sea of consciousness. If not for the fact that Thaling had been trying to find a way to break through the Valley of the Medicine Master's mountain protective array and had heard of Gu Wen's sinister plan in time, the unprepared him might have fallen into Guzi's hands. Is there a need to be so polite between us? Dissatisfied with Yu Haoran's overly polite behavior, Thaling criticized him and quickly asked him how to deal with Guzi's insidious plan. Yu Haoran, what do you plan to do? Since you were the one who was heartless first, then don't blame me for being unjust. Yu Haoran sneered after thinking for a moment. Then he called out to the 2 doppelgangers and the victor. Brother Hao, Brother Ran, quickly show yourself. I need your help. Brother Yu. After leaving the victor, the 2 doppelgangers appeared in the room and nodded to Yu Haoran. Then, the first doppelganger asked, Brother Yu, what do you need us to do? Brother Hao, Brother Ran, and a while we. Motioning the 2 doppelgangers to come forward, Yu Haoran explained his plan. Okay, we'll act according to Brother Yu's plan. Turning his head to look at the second doppelganger, the first doppelganger readily agreed. The second doppelganger just nodded and did not say much. Thaling, please. After getting the agreement of the 2 doppelgangers, Yu Haoran ordered Thaling in the sea of consciousness. Thaling, who also heard Yu Haoran's plan just now, couldn't bear to persuade him. Yu Haoran, aren't you being a bit too ruthless? Thaling, just like what Guzi said just now, a man with a small temper is not a gentleman, and a man without poison is not a great man, Yu Haoran said with a murderous look. Since Guzi dares to risk universal condemnation and privately contact the Demon Dao experts to extract my spiritual body, then don't blame me, Yu Haoran, for cutting off the roots of the Valley of the Medicine Masters and destroying the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Sigh. In this regard, Thaling could only sigh and did not continue to persuade him. Then, he used his divine thought to set up a concealment array to temporarily hide the tracks of Yu Haoran and the first doppelganger. Just after Thaling used the array to hide the tracks of Yu Haoran and the first doppelganger, there was a knock on the door outside the room. The second doppelganger coldly opened the door and looked at Elder Ning, who was standing outside. Grandmaster Yu, I'm very sorry. Due to some special reasons, the Earth Source Pavilion has to be temporarily closed for a period of time. The Valley Master hopes that you can stay at the Autumn Water Pavilion for a period of time, Elder Ning said apologetically when he saw Yu Haoran standing at the door. Lead the way. The second doppelganger coldly ordered without any change in his expression. Please. Elder Ning gestured and led the second doppelganger down the stairs. The second doppelganger followed Elder Ning out of the Earth Source Pavilion after calling out to Black Bear, who was lying in the corner. At the same time, Yu Haoran, who was hidden in the room, gestured to Thaling to remove the concealment array and instructed the first doppelganger. Brother Hao, although the Master Apothecary's inheritance is very important, your safety is more important. If the timing is not right, you can temporarily retreat, and we will think of a way in the future. Brother Yu, don't worry. I know what to do. The first doppelganger nodded and swallowed the elixir that Howard had just given him. At the same time, Thowling also used a secret technique to conceal his aura on the first doppelganger. When everything was ready, the first doppelganger nodded at Howard and flew out of the Earth Source Pavilion through the window of the room, heading straight for the true core of the Medicine Master Valley. After the first doppelganger left the Earth Source Pavilion, Howard followed the stairs to the room on the first floor, where Xiang Wenxuan had fainted. When he saw Xiang Wenxuan lying on the ground, a trace of gratitude and pity flashed across Howard's eyes. Xiang Wenxuan's character had truly won Howard's respect for Howard by not fearing the Valley Master's threats and arguing on his behalf. Bending down, Howard cut Xiang Wenxuan's finger and forced out a drop of blood. Through the smell and color of the blood, Howard finally determined the cause of Xiang Wenxuan's unconsciousness. Thowling, I really did not expect Gu Zi to have the dragon saliva of the rank 4 Black Dragon King. Howard sighed with envy as he flicked the blood off his finger. Howard, there is no need to be envious. Thowling consoled Howard when he saw that Howard was envious of Xiang Wenxuan's possession of the dragon saliva of the Black Dragon King. When your cultivation has broken through to the martial emperor realm, I will bring you to a place, a cave of the Black Dragon King, that is about to evolve into a true dragon. Chapter 679, Medicine King Valley, Earth Origin Pavilion. Actually, Howard's envy and jealousy towards Gu Zi was not because of the high gray dragon saliva. It was because the dragon saliva produced by the Black King Dragon could increase the grade and power of the black saliva ball, allowing it to have the power to threaten martial sages. Brother Xiang, it's all my fault for being impulsive and causing you to suffer such a calamity. Howard apologized as he wiped off the blood on Xiang Wenxuan's fingers. He then took out the pill furnace and 16 poisonous elixirs from his storage ring. Using Yuan Li to drive the fire in the pill furnace, he used his rich experience in refining poison pills from his previous life and the upgraded pill furnace fire to create 9 antidote pills in less than 10 minutes. Keeping the pill furnace, he took out an antidote pill and fed it to Xiang Wenxuan. Howard stood up and walked to the window in the room, carefully thinking about his next plan as he waited for Xiang Wenxuan to wake up. It did not take long, only about 3 minutes. Xiang Wenxuan slowly regained consciousness as he spat out a mouthful of smelly blood. Thinking of the Valley Head's sinister plan to use a demonic technique to extract Howard's soul, Xiang Wenxuan wanted to hurry up and persuade him. However, a wave of weakness made him unable to sit up, let alone stand up. Brother Xiang, you were poisoned by the Black King Dragon's saliva just now, causing your soul to be extremely weak. You will need a period of rest to recover. Hearing the commotion behind him, Howard hurriedly turned around and appeared beside Xiang Wenxuan in a flash, comforting him. Brother Yu, hurry up and leave the Medicine King Valley. The Valley Head plans to make a move on you. Seeing Howard, Xiang Wenxuan instinctively warned him to escape. Brother Xiang, don't worry. I already know of Gu Zi's plan and have a way to deal with it. Retrieving a few elixirs to recover one's soul, he helped Xiang Wenxuan consume them as he continued to comfort him. Brother Yu, I'm sorry. Seeing that Howard already knew all the secrets, Xiang Wenxuan apologized to Howard with a pained expression. Brother Xiang, the plan to deal with them is Gu Zi's own idea. It has nothing to do with you. You don't need to apologize to me. Howard reached out and patted him on the shoulder, indicating that he should quickly recover his divine soul with the help of the medicinal pills. No! Xiang Wenxuan shook his head with all his might and blamed himself. If I hadn't invited you, you wouldn't have come to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. If you had not come to Medicine King's Valley, you would not have aroused the jealousy of the Valley Lord and would not have risked universal condemnation to contact the demonic path giants, intending to use the demonic path secret arts to extract your spiritual body in order to obtain the alchemy methods to refine the 5 Lives Profound Gate Pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone Pill. Old Brother Xiang, what do you think about the Valley Master and the Valley of the Medicine Masters? In response to Xiang Wenxuan's self-blame, Yu Haoran did not continue to persuade him, because he knew that the kind-hearted Xiang Wenxuan was too obsessed with his own mistakes. If he wanted to resolve this self-blame in his heart, he would probably have to think it through himself. Therefore, he asked about his true intention of saving Xiang Wenxuan, even if it meant delaying the execution of the plan for some time. How should I put it? While listening to Yu Haoran's reminder and refining the medicinal pills he had just swallowed to recover his weakened divine soul, Xiang Wenxuan tested his inner feelings about Guzi and the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Sadness, disappointment, frustration, helplessness, sadness, despair. He said several of his inner feelings in a row, and finally, they all converged into one emotion. Brother Yu, towards the Valley Master and the Valley of the Medicine Masters, the greatest feeling I have in my heart right now is despair. After hearing Xiang Wenxuan's truest feelings, Yu Haoran was overjoyed and quickly asked, since it's despair, what do you plan to do in the future? I plan to leave the Valley of the Medicine Masters and become an unrestrained, independent alchemist, Xiang Wenxuan replied with a wry smile. Xiang Wenxuan was already used to relying on the protection of the Valley of the Medicine Masters and had no confidence in his ability to adapt to the life of an independent alchemist. Old brother Xiang, I, Yu Haoran, respect and admire your character and your alchemy skills. He would rather become an independent alchemist than continue to stay in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. After hearing Xiang Wenxuan's next plans, Yu Haoran was overjoyed and hurriedly invited him. If old brother Xiang thinks highly of me, Yu Haoran, why don't you stay in my Qingyun Peak? In the future, if he wanted to develop Qingyun Peak to be on par with the 7 great powers, or even the reclusive family clans, he had to develop it in an all-round way. And an alchemist, and an array master were indispensable factors. Although using the I Chi turning 3 pure ones technique allowed Qingyun Peak to have alchemists and array masters, Yu Haoran knew very well that his future path of cultivation would be filled with bloodshed. It was impossible for his 2 clones to stay in Qingyun Peak for long. Therefore, Qingyun Peak needed alchemists, and array masters who could really take charge. And Xiang Wenxuan. Not only was his talent in alchemy not inferior to his own, but he also had a special divine eye. In the future, his achievements in alchemy were limitless. He was definitely the most suitable alchemist for Qingyun Peak. In the face of Yu Haoran's invitation, Xiang Wenxuan hesitated. Joining Qingyun Peak, becoming an alchemist, and being able to exchange alchemy skills with Yu Haoran at any time was a good choice. But Yu Haoran, who already knew the Valley Master's sinister intentions, and with his vengeful personality, he would definitely fight to the death with the Valley of the Medicine Masters. If he became a member of Qingyun Peak now, in the face of the bloody battle between the Valley of the Medicine Masters and Yu Haoran, what choice would he make? If he supported the Valley of the Medicine Masters, he would be letting down Yu Haoran's life-saving grace. If he supported Yu Haoran, he would be letting down the Valley of the Medicine Masters for nurturing him and protecting him. After thinking about it, Xiang Wenxuan finally shook his head and refused. Brother Yu, thank you for your kindness, but I don't want to join any faction for the time being. I just want to be an unrestrained, independent cultivator. Yu Haoran didn't care about this. He was very clear about Xiang Wenxuan's concerns and was confident that he would choose Qingyun Peak in the end and become a strong cornerstone of Qingyun Peak in the future. He took out a blank jade slip from his storage ring and left a message on it. Brother Xiang, if you want to know the secret of your left eye, come to Qingyun Peak to find me. Then, he used the arrays that his second doppelganger had learned during this period to set up a sealing array. Then, he handed the jade slip to Xiang Wenxuan and warned him, Brother Xiang, this jade slip contains a secret about your own body. I used an array to temporarily seal the contents of the jade slip. Chapter 680. Medicine Master Valley, Earth Origin Pavilion. Reaching out to receive the jade slip from Yu Haoran, Xiang Wenxuan obeyed Yu Haoran's instructions and didn't use his divine sense to examine it. instead directly storing it in a storage ring. Old Brother Xiang, the Black Flood Dragon King's dragon saliva, is quite harmful to the divine soul. You will need pills to recover your weakened divine soul, and you'll also need to borrow the Earth Origin Pavilion's scorching spiritual energy to eliminate the unique yin qi of the dragon saliva. Seeing Xiang Wenxuan keep the Jade Scroll, Yu Haoran knew that he had accomplished his mission of recruiting Medicine Master Valley. After all, time was of the essence. He had to complete his plan to destroy Medicine Master Valley before Gu Zi exchanged for the demon's secret techniques from the demon path. Only then would he be able to dispel the hatred in his heart and safely leave Medicine Master Valley. Hence, after instructing Xiang Wenxuan to continue recuperating in the Earth Origin Pavilion, he cupped his fists and bid farewell. Brother Yu, after I revealed my exceptional talent in the Tao of Pills, you received Valley Master Guzi's high regard and have been by his side for almost 50 years. You could be considered his trusted aide. Although Yu Haoran did not explicitly state what he was going to do next, Xiang Wenxuan, who understood his vengeful nature, knew that he would definitely be unwilling to leave after leaving the Earth Source Pavilion. He would definitely take revenge on the Medicine King Valley. However, considering the true strength of Medicine Master Valley, Xiang Wenxuan could not help but remind him, Brother Yu, the Valley of the Medicine Masters is not as simple as you think. There are dangers lurking in the dark. Even a martial honor would not dare to set foot in it. Xiang Wenxuan looked up at Yu Haoran and sincerely pleaded, Hence, Brother Yu, take a step back and you will see the world. Bear with it for a while and calm down. After leaving the Earth Origin Pavilion, you had best put aside any thoughts of revenge and quickly leave Medicine Master Valley. In the future, when you have the power to control the situation in Tianxian Continent, you can decide whether to take revenge on Medicine Master Valley. Brother Xiang, I understand. You can focus on recuperating. Yu Haoran smiled and nodded before turning to leave the room and the Earth Origin Pavilion. Yu Haoran snorted disdainfully at Xiang Wenxuan's persuasion. Xiang Wenxuan's persuasion was just a matter of time. In his previous life, no matter how difficult and dangerous the situation was, he would do everything he could to take revenge, even if he had to pay the price of being seriously injured. Now that he had the means to destroy the foundations of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, as well as a way to escape from the Valley of the Medicine Masters in time, how could he not take revenge immediately? After leaving the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Yu Haoran also used an elixir to change his appearance and aura, then headed straight for a medicinal field north of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The Valley of the Medicine Masters was not very strong as a whole, but it had a reputation that did not lose out to the 7 top sections. In addition to its superb alchemy techniques, it also had 3 treasures that determined the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The first treasure was a flawless lower-grade Emperor Realm Cauldron. Numerous times, the Valley Master and Great Elder of the Medicine King Valley had worked together with all the Grandmasters of the Pill Tao in the Valley. They had used the lower Emperor Realm Pill furnaces to make the pills. However, with his current strength and methods, he could not get close to the Emperor's aura emanating from the lower Emperor Realm Cauldron, let alone steal or destroy it. Therefore, the first treasure that could affect the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters was not in his plan this time. The second treasure was the Master Apothecary's inheritance that had attracted countless talented alchemists to the Valley of the Medicine Masters. For the second treasure, although he had already sent out his first clone that specialized in alchemy and poison, he did not know whether he would be able to obtain the Master Apothecary's inheritance in the end. To be honest, Yu Haoran did not have much confidence in himself. After all, the Master Apothecary's inheritance had existed for tens of thousands of years, and there was no lack of geniuses with talent in alchemy who had tried to obtain it. But until now, the Master Apothecary's inheritance was still in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, which was enough to prove the strictness and harshness of the Master Apothecary's inheritance. The third treasure was the upper-level, third-level spiritual vein hidden under the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The upper-level, third-level spiritual vein was the true foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. It was the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters to establish itself in the Tianxian continent, and also the real target of his plan this time. A upper-level, third-level spiritual vein with its own consciousness was basically equivalent to a peerless cultivator in the advanced stage of the martial honor realm. At the same time, the spiritual vein had a unique physique. Even a peerless cultivator at the peak of the 9th grade martial honor realm would not dare to provoke it. However, even a peerless 9th grade martial honor would not dare to provoke an upper-level 3rd-level spiritual vein. Not only did Yu Haoran dare to provoke it, but he also had a way to make it unable to retaliate. In his previous life, he had secretly tested this method on an upper-level 3rd-level spiritual vein in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. This was also the reason why he was so confident in destroying the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. The 10,000 Mu herb field was a fertile field that the ancestors of the Valley of the Medicine Masters had specially opened up to cultivate the best spiritual herbs. It was also one of the important methods to attract countless talented alchemists to join the Valley of the Medicine Masters and become alchemists of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Because the 10,000 Mu herb field was open to all alchemists in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Other than a few dozen stalks of the best spiritual herbs that were sealed by a spell, the rest of the spiritual herbs could be picked as they wished. Even if it was a 5th grade, 9th grade spiritual herb. The Valley of the Medicine Masters was so generous to the alchemists of the Valley. Firstly, they hoped to use large amounts of spiritual herbs to refine their skills and increase their alchemy experience and cultivation. Secondly, because the location of the 10,000 Mu herb field was right on the spine of the upper-level 3rd-level spiritual vein, they could use the dense spiritual qi at any time to cultivate the spiritual herbs that had been picked in a very short period of time. Based on his memories of living in the Valley of the Medicine Masters in his previous life, Yu Haoran quickly arrived in front of the 10,000 Mu herb field. Actually, the ancestors of the Valley of the Medicine Masters had opened up 10,000 Mu herb field at the beginning, but as the spiritual vein continued to level up and the descendants continued to open up and maintain it. At this time, the so-called 10,000 Mu herb field was actually more than 100,000 Mu herb field. Looking at the tens of thousands of different types of spiritual herbs planted in front of him, Yu Haoran, who had used pills to change his appearance, took a deep breath. Then he stepped into the herb field. However, after entering the herb field, he did not immediately pick the spiritual herbs that he had planned. Instead, he stood in the herb field and waited for a while. He waited until Thalink's notification that he was ready to begin before he began to pick the spiritual herbs that he had planned. Although the upper-level, 3rd-level spiritual vein had its own consciousness and its true strength was that of an advanced martial honor, Thalink's soul had recovered to the peak of the martial honor level and possessed a spiritual sense that was not inferior to, or even slightly superior to, the upper-level 3rd-level spiritual vein. Chapter 681. Medicine King Valley, 10,000 Mu of Herb Fields. 10th level 9th grade Violet Leaf Roland. 10th level 9th grade Yellow Ginseng Grass. 10th level 9th grade Three-tailed Wind Leaf. After picking 8 10th level 9th grade spiritual herbs in a row, Yu Haoran raised his head and looked around. He found that although there were other alchemists picking spiritual herbs in the herb fields, they were quite far away from each other and would not notice him for the time being. Therefore, he chose a spiritual herb field with more flourishing vegetation and took out a 10th level 9th grade spiritual herb that contained highly toxic poison from his storage ring. He then used his Dantian fire to melt and refine it, finally condensing it into a spiritual liquid the size of a walnut. Returning to the edge of the herb fields, he followed the directions of the herb fields that Thaling used his divine sense to bury the highly toxic spiritual liquid at the location of Milong. Then he re-entered the herb fields and began to pick 9th level 9th grade Violet Leaf Roland, Yellow Ginseng Grass, Three-tailed Wind Leaf, and 8 other spiritual herbs that were exactly the same. After using his dantian fire to condense the highly toxic spiritual liquid, he buried it at the location of Cha-Cha, according to the location of the herb fields. In the next hour, he used the same method to refine 9 8th level 9th grade spiritual liquids, 9 7th level 9th grade spiritual liquids, and 9 6th level 9th grade spiritual liquids that contained highly toxic spiritual liquids. Then, according to the directions provided by Thaling, he buried them at the watery, acupoint, and vertical positions. Howren, the vein sealing technique itself, is destroying the foundation of the spiritual vein. You also use different grades of spiritual liquids to corrode it. Basically, you have already cut off the hope of a third-level spiritual vein to advance to a higher grade in the future. After seeing Howren bury the last type of spiritual liquid that contained highly toxic spiritual liquids at the vertical position of the herb fields, Thaling couldn't bear to see it happen. After all, if a third-level spiritual vein could continue to advance, it would become an almighty expert that would not lose to Emperor Wu's realm. This was truly a heaven-defying act for an alternate being to become an emperor. Furthermore, if a third-level spiritual vein could advance to a second-level spiritual vein, it might produce first-level spirit stones that contain divine spiritual chi. If an expert at the peak of the 9th grade martial revered realm were to use a grade 1 spirit stone that contained divine spiritual chi to break through, the chances of breaking through would be as high as 70%. Thaling, when a level 3 upper spirit vein decided to help the tyrant, it had already lost the chance to advance to a higher level. Facing Thaling's sigh, Howren comforted himself in a self-deceiving manner. I'm just following the will of the heavens and carrying out punishment on behalf of the heavens. After hearing Howren's self-deceiving, self-comforting words, Thaling rolled her eyes at him speechlessly. She didn't say anything and just used her divine sense to stare at the rank 3 upper grade spiritual vein to observe its condition. 10 minutes later, the spiritual sense of the superior rank 3 spirit vein began to gradually return to the source of the spirit vein. Thaling knew that Howren's vein sealing technique, which he used to use poison, had taken effect, so he quickly reminded him. Howren, the vein sealing technique has taken effect. After hearing Thaling's reminder, Howren's heart was filled with joy. He immediately spread out his divine sense and discovered that the restriction on his divine sense by the spirit vein was indeed weakening, forcefully suppressing the ecstasy in his heart. He raised his head and looked at the alchemists who were picking spiritual herbs in the herb field. Then, he took out 3 detoxification pills to help Xiang Wenxuan remove the black king dragon saliva from his storage ring. After crushing them, he used the wind to blow them towards the alchemists who were picking spiritual herbs in the herb field. Every alchemist who smelled the detoxification pills immediately felt a wave of drowsiness wash over them. Originally, they wanted to return to their own residences and have a good night's sleep. However, the strong wave of drowsiness made it impossible for them to persist, and they directly fell asleep. Although the effects of the 3 detoxification pills were not enough to make all the alchemists in the herb field faint, his target was the dozen or so level 1/4 grade spiritual herbs in his line of sight. Using a movement technique, he quickly rushed towards the spiritual herbs that were sealed by the formation. Thaling do it. Although it was said that with his formation skills, he could also break the formation of the dozen or so spiritual herbs, but time was very tight. Next, he still needed to destroy the true foundation of a level 3 upper spiritual vein. He could not afford to waste too much time. Therefore, he could only trouble Thaling, who was stronger in formation skills. It's done. In just 5 seconds, Thaling had broken the formation of the level 1/4 grade Rainbow Moon Orchid and indicated to Howren that he could start. Taking out a special jade box from his storage ring, he carefully plucked the Rainbow Moon Orchid and placed it into the jade box. Then, he picked the second spiritual herb that he wanted to pick. It was a level 3/4 grade spiritual dragon Ganoderma. The Pagoda Genie also used less than 5 seconds to break the seal formation, and Howren happily put away the spirit dragon heavenly Ganoderma. Next, Yu Haoran spent a total of less than 10 minutes to pick a total of 13 stalks of Tier 4, Grade 1 to Grade 6, before he finally stopped his act of stealing the spiritual herbs. Then, he looked up at the spiritual herb field. Although he was very tempted by the few stalks of peerless spirit herbs that were about to advance to the 3rd level, he knew that those spirit herbs were not only more powerful than the ceiling formation, but they were also more connected to the grains. If he touched those spiritual herbs, he would definitely alert Guzi and expose his plan to destroy the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Therefore, forcefully suppressing the greed in his heart, Yu Haoran turned and left the spiritual herb field, heading straight for the Immortal Fate Pavilion where Guzi lived. In the Immortal Fate Pavilion, Zhao Qing, how much more time do we need to contact the Demon Lord over there? Looking at Zhao Qing, who was constantly burning level 5, 1st grade spiritual stones, and forcefully channeling all the spiritual chi from the burning spirit stones into a simple bronze mirror, Guzi, who was originally calm, suddenly felt frustrated and could not help but ask, "Valley Master, the Demon Lord is tens of millions of kilometers away from us. Using the spiritual chi from the burning of level 5, 1st grade spiritual stones, being able to contact him within 4 hours is my limit." Zhao Qing was sweating profusely as he used the spiritual chi from the burning spirit stones to activate the power of the bronze mirror. What if we use level 4 spirit stones of a higher grade? The sudden uneasiness in his heart made Guzi even more desperate to contact the Demon Lord who could provide him with the best demonic Dao secret techniques. Therefore, he decided to use spirit stones of a higher grade. 30 level 4 1st grade spiritual stones for 1.5 hours. The price is that you will not be able to use the bronze mirror for a year. Zhao Qing could feel Guzi's frustration and was afraid that he would do something that would hurt him. He could only grit his teeth and say this: "Change to level 4 spirit stones immediately." Chapter 682, Valley of the Medicine Masters, Immortal Fate Pavilion. All right. In the face of Guzi's unyielding command, Zhao Qing nodded gloomily. Then he took Guzi's hand and handed him 34th tier, 1st grade spirit stones. Using his spiritual sense, he drew out the condensed spirit liquid from the spirit stones and poured it into the bronze mirror. Just as Guzi was forcing Zhao Qing to use the level 4, grade 1 spirit stone to increase the power of the bronze level Dharma artifact, Yu Haoran appeared in front of the Immortal Fate Pavilion's courtyard with a movement technique. Temporarily hiding in a large tree in front of the courtyard, Yu Haoran instructed Thaling in his sea of consciousness. "Thaling, I'll have a trouble you. Yu Haoran, Zhao Qing is using the spirit liquid from the level 4, 1st grade spirit stones to forcefully activate the top transmission artifact of the demonic path. At most, it will take about an hour to contact the demonic path giant over there." Using his divine thought, Thaling could clearly see Guzi and Zhao Qing's every move in the Immortal Fate Pavilion. There's still time. They still needed about an hour to contact the demonic path giant over there, and then discuss the time needed to exchange the bargaining chips. Yu Haoran secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he signaled Thaling to use a secret technique to conceal his aura and sneak into the Immortal Fate Pavilion. The Immortal Fate Pavilion, along with the Heavenly Origin Pavilion and the Earth Origin Pavilion, was known as one of the 3 wonders of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. It was also the place where the Valley Lord cultivated in seclusion. Other than the beautiful scenery, the most important thing was that the Immortal Fate Pavilion was located at the source of the superior level 3 spirit vein. In order to destroy the foundation of the superior level 3 spirit vein, one had to find the source of the spirit vein and then use it to enter the interior of the spirit vein. After stealthily sneaking into the Immortal Fate Pavilion, apart from the cultivation room where Guzi and Zhao Qing were, he had already checked the entire Immortal Fate Pavilion. However, he did not find the entrance to the source of the spirit vein. Although he suspected that the entrance to the spirit vein source was very likely to be in the cultivation room, where Guzi and Zhao Qing were, Yu Haoran asked Thaling for help. Yu Haoran, don't be delusional. The entrance to the spirit vein source is in the cultivation room, where Gu Zi and Zhao Qing are. Unfortunately, Thowling had already used his divine thought to check the immortal fate pavilion and mercilessly destroyed his last shred of hope. The cultivation room was not very spacious, and Gu Zi and Zhao Qing were both martial saints. No matter how powerful he was, it was impossible for him to enter the spirit vein source right under their noses. Therefore, he could only temporarily give up on the idea of entering the spirit vein through the source. Although Yu Haoran's fantasy was mercilessly destroyed by the tower spirit, he quickly adjusted his mentality and immediately carried out the second plan. That was to steal the heavenly fire hidden in the Tianyuan Pavilion, the #1 pavilion in the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Although he could not refine the heavenly fire with his current level of cultivation and strength, Victor might be able to store the heavenly fire for the time being. When he had the ability to refine the heavenly fire in the future, he could just take the heavenly fire from Victor. If the heavenly fire in the Tianyuan Pavilion was not suitable for him, he could use the heavenly fire to exchange for a top-notch weapon or some other rare treasure. Thowling, can you leave behind a surveillance formation so that I can know Gu Zi and Zhao Qing's movements at all times? However, Gu Zi's movements would determine whether he could enter the spirit vein source as soon as possible. It also concerned the safety of his second doppelganger. Therefore, he needed to know Gu Zi's every move at all times. If it was in the past, it would definitely not work. But now, in response to Yu Haoran's question, Thowling used his divine telekinesis to sense the situation. Then, he gave an answer that excited Yu Haoran. The spirit vein's consciousness has been damaged by the vein sealing technique. It is temporarily unable to monitor the Valley of the Medicine Master's movements. I can barely set it up. Thowling, then I'll have to trouble you to set it up quickly. 10 minutes later, Yu Haoran left the immortal fate pavilion stealthily after the pagoda's spirit indicated that the surveillance formation had been successfully set up. Then, he headed straight for an ordinary-looking courtyard about 5 kilometers away from the Earth Origin Pavilion. This ordinary-looking courtyard was the #1 pavilion in the Valley of the Medicine Masters Tianyuan Pavilion. Xiang Wenxuan had used his divine telekinesis to tell him about it before he left the Earth Source Pavilion. Actually, Yu Haoran knew what Xiang Wenxuan meant. He hoped that the heavenly fire in the Tianyuan Pavilion would be able to appease the hatred in his heart and thus resolve his grudge with the Valley of the Medicine Masters. However, how could a mere heavenly fire make up for the hatred of using a demonic path secret technique to extract his spirit? Using a movement technique, Yu Haoran arrived in front of the ordinary-looking Tianyuan Pavilion in less than 10 minutes. Just as he steadied himself, an extremely cold chill instantly numbed his limbs. The mysterious Yin Spirit Fire ranked 69th on the Heavenly Fire ranking in the Tianxian continent. Thowling could not help but shout out in shock when he felt the cold qi coming from the courtyard. Sigh, looks like the Heavenly Fire in the Tianyuan Pavilion is not fated with me. Yu Haoran could not help but sigh in disappointment when he heard Thowling point out the origin of the heavenly fire hidden in the Tianyuan Pavilion. Yu Haoran, although the mysterious Yin Spirit Fire is not suitable for you, it is extremely suitable for your fiancée, Qin Lingfei. Thowling excitedly reminded Yu Haoran in the face of his disappointment. If Qin Lingfei is able to refine the mysterious Yin Spirit Fire, not only will her strength increase tenfold, she will also be able to break through to the martial saint realm within 3 years. More importantly, with the help of the mysterious Yin Spirit Fire and the power of Allah's, she will also be one of the strongest experts in the martial saint realm. Yu Haoran's eyes could not help but light up when he heard Thowling's reminder. Qin Lingfei, who was born in the great Emperor Qin Empire, possessed monstrous talent, and was only 1 year older than him, was already a peak first-grade martial king. In 3 years, her cultivation had broken through from first-grade martial king to first-grade martial saint. Even with the cultivation experience from his previous life and Thowling's assistance, Yu Haoran did not have absolute confidence that he would be able to break through to the martial saint realm within 3 years. If Qin Fei could break through to the martial saint realm with the help of the mysterious Yin spirit fire, not only would her status in the great Emperor Qin Empire be elevated, but it would also reduce his burden and he would not have to worry too much about her safety. More importantly, the engagement ceremony between him and Qin Fei would be in 10 days. Originally, the icy heart jade bone elixir was the final betrothal gift to shock the guests attending the engagement ceremony. However, due to the sudden change, he did not know if he could start refining the icy heart jade bone elixir before the engagement ceremony. Therefore, the mysterious Yin spirit fire as the final betrothal gift was no less effective than the icy heart jade bone elixir. However, it would probably disappoint Emperor Qin. Chapter 683. Medicine King Valley, in front of Tianyuan Pavilion. Since he had made his decision, Yu Haoran decided to take the mysterious Yin soul fire from Tianyuan Pavilion. But before that, he needed to confirm whether Victor could store the extremely cold, mysterious Yin soul fire that was ranked 69th on the mysterious flame rankings. After all, he had not expected the mysterious flame stored in Tianyuan Pavilion to be of such a high rank. Yu Haoran, let alone the 69th ranked mysterious Yin soul fire, even the 10th ranked dragon flame mysterious flame can be stored by Victor. Thaling said arrogantly. All right then. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran activated his Yuan power and spirit to form a protective barrier before pushing open the door to Tianyuan Pavilion and stepping into the courtyard. If the temperature outside the courtyard was the beginning of winter, then the temperature inside the courtyard was bitterly cold, with a difference of several dozen degrees. And this was only the temperature at the entrance. The deeper he went into the courtyard, the greater the drop in temperature. When he reached the 9th step, Yu Haoran had no choice but to stop with a grave expression. The current temperature had already reached the limit of what his body could endure. If he continued, the Yuan power in his Dantian and spirit would be in danger of being frozen. No wonder no one had ever lived in Tianyuan Pavilion since it had been built. Moreover, not a single alchemy grandmaster in Medicine King Valley had successfully refined the mysterious Yin soul fire. If even a dual cultivator like him was unable to endure the corrosion of the courtyard's low temperature, then what about the alchemy grandmasters who were obsessed with the Tao of alchemy and focused on body cultivation? They probably did not even have the ability to approach Tianyuan Pavilion, let alone refine the mysterious Yin soul fire that emitted the cold, mysterious Yin soul fire. His divine sense extended a centimeter out of his knowledge and was almost frozen by the extreme temperature that exceeded the limit of the 9th step. Thaling, what do I do? He lifted his head to look at the courtyard, but did not find any trace of the mysterious Yin soul fire. This meant that it was very likely in one of the rooms in Tianyuan Pavilion. He could not even approach the pavilion, let alone enter the room to retrieve the mysterious Yin soul fire. Helpless, he could only ask for Thaling's help once again. It's very simple. Use the fire of the alchemy furnace to absorb the cold Yin Qi emitted by the Xian Yin soul fire, and use it to enter the attic. In the face of the cold Yin energy that Yu Haoran was helpless against, Thaling easily provided a solution. Will it work? Yu Haoran asked with uncertainty. Although the alchemy fire in the cauldron left behind by Pill Venerable Miao Sheng was not ordinary, the cauldron had been damaged in the past, causing the grade and power of the alchemy fire in the cauldron to drop by a lot. Otherwise, he would not have needed Thaling's reminder. Yu Haoran, not only is it feasible to use the pill furnace's pill flame to absorb the mysterious Yin soul fire's Yin Qi, the Yin Qi's effect on restoring the quality of the pill flame is not inferior to the Earth Origin Pavilion Spirit Qi. Thaling confidently said. Not only could it counteract the cold Yin Qi emitted by the mysterious Yin soul fire, but it could also increase the grade of the alchemy fire and further restore the damage to the cauldron. With Thaling's further explanation, Yu Haoran was instantly overjoyed. Originally, he had asked Guzi to help him refine the icy heart jade bone elixir because he was a beginner's second-grade martial grandmaster. He was not confident that he could refine 365 types of spiritual medicine in one go. If the alchemy fire in the cauldron could continue to level up with the help of his first avatar, he could try to refine the icy heart jade bone elixir alone. Thinking of this, Yu Haoran directly took out the cauldron. The moment the cauldron was taken out, countless cold qi surged into the cauldron like fish that had seen delicious food. He was so frightened that he threw the cauldron on the ground. Just as countless cold qi surged into the cauldron and was absorbed by the alchemy fire, the temperature in the entire courtyard gradually rose. Taking a step forward, Yu Haoran tried to get closer to the attic. After taking 5 steps, Yu Haoran finally felt the threatening cold qi again. However, he did not care about it. He used his elemental energy to drive the cauldron closer to the attic. When the cold qi around the cauldron gradually thinned out and the temperature rose slowly, he continued to move closer to the attic. It took less than half an hour to move the cauldron, and Yu Haoran finally got close to the attic. Based on the density of the cold qi in the attic, he accurately found the location of the mysterious soul fire. He took 3 steps back and returned to the side of the cauldron. He used his divine thought to carefully sense the alchemy fire in the cauldron and found that after absorbing the cold qi for nearly half an hour, the alchemy fire in the cauldron was on the verge of leveling up. However, it seemed that the concentration and purity of the cold qi in the courtyard was not high enough, causing the alchemy fire in the cauldron to lack an opportunity to level up. He used his mind to take out a low-grade zone realm sword from his storage ring. After injecting his soul power and elemental energy, he threw it directly to the 3rd room on the east side of the 1st floor of the attic. This was because the 3rd room on the east side of the 1st floor of the attic was the room where the mysterious soul fire was stored. Although his soul power and elemental energy, which had reached the early stage of martial ancestor realm, could fully display the power of a low-grade martial ancestor realm sword, compared to the extremely low temperature of the cold qi, the power of a low-grade martial ancestor realm magic weapon was still slightly inferior. The sword was only able to break through a crack in the door when it was completely frozen by the cold qi. When it fell to the ground, it shattered into several pieces. Even though the full might of the low-tier zone realm sword hadn't actually opened the door to the room, it had still opened a small crack in the door, allowing the frigid aura that had accumulated in the room to escape. The cold qi, which was so dense that it could be seen with the naked eye, surged out from the gap. After sensing the high temperature of the alchemy fire in the cauldron, the cold qi rushed back into the cauldron like fish back into the sea. He hurriedly retreated a few steps to avoid the cold qi that was rushing into the cauldron. Then, he paid attention to the gap in the door that had been opened by the low-grade martial ancestor realm sword. Yu Haoran, when the alchemy fire in the cauldron advances in rank, it will produce an extremely powerful devouring power. This powerful devouring power will instantly absorb the cold qi emitted by the mysterious soul fire. When the time comes, rush into the room as fast as you can. Then, I will use Victor to take away the mysterious soul fire. As more and more cold qi poured into the cauldron, the alchemy fire in the cauldron began to transform and advance in rank. Fouling in his knowledge, Si hurriedly reminded him. He immediately mobilized all the elemental energy in his dantian and stared intently at the alchemy fire in the cauldron so that he could rush into the room as soon as possible. Do it! 5 seconds later, when the alchemy fire in the cauldron advanced in rank, it suddenly produced a powerful devouring power. Not only did it start to crazily devour the cold qi in the room, but the force of the cold qi also caused the door to burst open. Chapter 684, Valley of the Medicine Masters, Tianyuan Pavilion. After hearing Thaling's warning, Yu Haoran, who had used all his strength, instantly transformed into a bolt of lightning and charged into the room. Then he saw a fist-sized flame floating in midair, emitting a faint blue flame. However, before he could examine the flame more closely, a crack suddenly appeared in the air above the Xian soul fire. and the crack swallowed the Xianyin soul fire. Yu Haoran, the entire Tianyuan pavilion was created from the yin qi of the Xianyin soul fire. Seeing that Thaling had successfully taken the Xianyin soul fire, Yu Haoran did not even have time to celebrate before Thaling's warning sounded in his mind. Now that the Xianyin soul fire has been taken away, the excess yin qi has been absorbed by the pill furnace's fire. The entire Tianyuan pavilion is about to collapse. Quickly take the pill furnace and leave this place. After hearing Thaling's warning, Yu Haoran did not hesitate and appeared outside the room in a flash. He quickly ran out of the courtyard as he kept the pill furnace. Just as he was about to leave the courtyard, he heard a deafening sound of something collapsing behind him. In response, Yu Haoran did not turn back to look. Instead, he used all his strength to run straight for Gu Zi's Immortal Fate Pavilion. The most important Tianyuan pavilion in the Valley of the Medicine Masters had suddenly been destroyed. As the valley head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Gu Zi had to be at the scene to investigate. This was also his last chance to enter the spirit vein through the source before Gu Zi acted. Yu Haoran, speed up. Gu Zi has already left the training room. Through the surveillance formation that had been set up beforehand, Thaling immediately discovered the commotion in the Immortal Fate Pavilion. After hearing that Gu Zi had already left the training room, Yu Haoran, who knew that his plan had succeeded, immediately used a small portion of his potential to continue increasing his speed. Finally, just as Gu Zi had left the Immortal Fate Pavilion, he successfully reached the courtyard of the Immortal Fate Pavilion. Without hesitation, he had Thaling use the secret technique to conceal his presence again and then sneak into the Immortal Fate Pavilion, heading straight for the training room. Thaling, help me check on Zhao Qing's condition. When they arrived at the door of the cultivation room, Yu Haoran did not rush in. Instead, he asked Thaling to use his spiritual sense to check the situation inside the cultivation room. Yu Haoran, go in. Thaling scanned the room with his divine sense, indicating that Yu Haoran could enter the cultivation room directly. Zhao Qing is currently at the critical moment of activating the demonic dermic artifact. Even if he discovers your intrusion, he won't be able to free himself to deal with you. Great. After hearing Thaling's reminder, Yu Haoran was overjoyed. He immediately pushed open the door and entered the training room. Valley Master, what happened outside? Hearing the door open behind him, Zhao Qing, who was in the midst of activating the demonic Dao artifact, mistakenly thought that Gu Zi, who had just left, had returned. However, after waiting for a few seconds, he didn't get any response, so he couldn't help but want to look back. Then he saw a fist flying towards him, landing heavily on the bridge of his nose. The sudden pain almost caused him to faint. Although he hated the person who punched him, he was at the critical moment of activating the demonic Dao artifact, so he couldn't free himself to retaliate. Thus, he could only watch as the second punch, the third punch, and finally the last punch that caused him a faint. Thaling, Zhao Qing has a secret technique that can fuse innate talent and potential. I hope that you can help me force it out of him. Pointing at the unconscious Zhao Qing, Yu Haoran put away the 12 fourth-level, first-grade spirit stones that he had yet to use, as well as the bronze mirror that had regained its ancient luster due to the loss of Zhao Qing's energy. He instructed Thaling, "What about you?" As Zhao Qing was being sucked into the tower spirit asked him how hard he should hit him. "As long as you can get the secret technique, it's up to you," Yu Haoran replied coldly. Then, he looked at the center of the training room, where Gu Zi usually sat on the praying mat. With a wave of his sleeve, he lifted the praying mat. Then, an unimaginably pure spiritual qi surged out from a hole that was about half a meter wide. Stimulated by the pure spiritual qi, his cultivation that had just broken through to the beginner second level of martial ancestor realm seemed to be on the verge of leveling up. In response, Yu Haoran hurriedly suppressed the urge to break through and jumped into the cave. Thaling used his divine will to erase all traces and auras left in the training room, then put the praying mat back in place. As his body continued to sink, the spiritual qi surrounding him became purer and denser. In the end, he didn't even need to actively absorb the spiritual qi, as the spiritual chi flowed into his body through his pores. When he stood firmly on solid ground, not only did his cultivation break through to the intermediate second level of martial ancestor realm, even his physical body advanced to the intermediate fourth level of martial ancestor realm. Through breathing, he only needed to absorb 3 mouthfuls of pure spiritual chi to completely stabilize the level he had just broken through. Yu Haoran stood in place for a while to forcefully suppress the powerful effect of the spiritual chi at the source of the upper level, third level spiritual vein. He waited until Thaling signaled that it was safe and showed him the way forward. Then he began to move. However, the unimaginably dense spiritual chi that had yet to condense into a liquid state made it impossible for him to use his flying technique and footwork techniques. He could only rely on his footsteps to slowly approach the place where the upper level, third level spiritual vein was condensing spiritual chi. Although the speed was very slow, more and more pure spiritual chi flowed into his body. He didn't need to deliberately cultivate and continued to rapidly improve. Although he was using his footsteps to get closer to the place where the upper level, third level spiritual vein was condensing spiritual chi, the place he had just landed was not too far from his destination. Therefore, after 20 minutes, he arrived at a lake that wasn't very big. Yu Haoran couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air as he looked at the lake water that looked like nectar. However, what he didn't expect was that during the 20 minutes of hurrying, the pure spiritual chi that his body had continuously absorbed had actually allowed his cultivation and physical body to reach the pinnacle at the same time. And the mouthful of pure spiritual chi that he had just inhaled had instantly allowed his cultivation and physical body to break through to the pinnacle of the realm. Finally, under his dumbfounded gaze, his cultivation successfully broke through to the beginner third level of martial ancestor realm, and his physical body successfully advanced to the beginner fifth level of martial ancestor realm. Moreover, just as his cultivation and physical body successfully advanced, because of the remaining pure spiritual chi in his body, they instantly reached the stage of consolidation. As long as the nectar is here, the immortals and gods are not far behind. After Yu Haoran's cultivation and physical body successfully broke through, Thaling in his sea of consciousness looked at the crystal-clear lake in front of him and couldn't help but sigh. Chapter 685. Immortal Fate Pavilion in the Spirit Vein. Yu Haoran, although the lake water in front of you is only liquid after the concentration of spirit chi has reached a certain level, after being purified multiple times by the spirit vein, its true effect is no less than that of a level 4 or 9 spirit stone, Thaling explained. After hearing Thaling's explanation, Yu Haoran wanted to gasp. But when he thought of the uncontrollable breakthrough just now, he forcibly suppressed the urge to gasp. Immediately after, a crazy thought appeared in his mind, and he couldn't help but ask in a trembling voice, "Thaling, can the victor store this lake water?" "No." But the answer Thaling gave him instantly cooled down the craziness that had just appeared in his heart. "Yu Haoran, this is different from a spirit liquid condensed by a level 5 spirit vein spirit. The lake water in this lake is closely related to the spirit of a level 3 spirit vein. More accurately, this lake is equivalent to the sea of consciousness of a level 3 spirit vein spirit vein. If the spirit does not constantly provide spirit power, the sea of consciousness will gradually shrink until it disappears. So, the lake water only has a heaven-defying effect in a level 3 spirit vein. Sigh, unable to take away the spirit liquid that could raise one's cultivation without any side effects. Yu Haoran sighed deeply. Then, he shook his head vigorously, dispelling the messy thoughts that had just appeared in his mind, and began to look for a suitable place to destroy the foundation of a level 3 spirit vein. In the end, a slightly protruding hill not far from the lake attracted his attention. Using the same method of walking, he approached the hill step by step. At the same time, After dealing with the unexpected collapse of the Tianyuan Pavilion, Gu Zi returned to the Immortal Fate Pavilion with a gloomy face. The Xianyin spirit fire hidden in the Tianyuan Pavilion could be said to be one of the most important means for the rise of the Valley of the Medicine Masters in the future. After all, as long as one could successfully refine the Xianyin spirit fire, not only would it greatly increase one's strength, but it would also be a heaven-defying aid to one's alchemy cultivation. If an alchemy Grandmaster Realm Alchemy Master were to refine the Xianyin Soul Fire, it would take at least 3 months to half a year for their alchemy cultivation to reach the alchemy Grandmaster Realm. If an alchemy Grandmaster Realm Alchemist refined the Xianyin Soul Fire, their alchemy cultivation would reach the pinnacle of the alchemy Grandmaster Realm in 1 to 3 years. Moreover, he was able to refine 3rd level 9th grade pills independently and had a 70% chance of breaking through the realm of Alchemy Grandmaster and becoming the legendary Pill Emperor. However, the conditions to refine the profound Yin Soul Fire were too harsh. Not only did it require a strong physical body, tenacious willpower, and a fearless confidence, but it also required a suitable physique for the profound Yin Soul Fire. This was also the reason why the Medicine King's Valley had kept the mysterious Yin Spirit Fire in Tianyuan Pavilion for almost 100 years. Because the Medicine King's Valley had not been able to find a suitable disciple to refine the Xian Yin Soul Fire. However, some time ago, the great elder who had gone out to train suddenly sent a message saying that he had not only found a suitable disciple to refine the Xianyin Soul Fire, but that disciple also had the top monstrous talent. Now that the Xianyin Soul Fire had suddenly disappeared, not only did the Medicine King's Valley lose an important means to become stronger in the future, but he also did not know how to explain it to the great elder. After all, the person who truly controlled the Medicine King's Valley was not him, the Valley Master in name, but the great elder who had a stronger cultivation. Sigh. Thinking of the great elder's anger, Gu Zi could not help but sigh. However, if he could extract Yu Haoran's soul body and obtain the refining method of the 5 Lives Black Pill and the Ice Heart J-Bone Pill, it would increase the strength of the Medicine King's Valley in no less than the Xianyin Soul Fire. His depressed mood immediately eased a lot, because using the 5 Lives Black Pill and the Ice Heart J-Bone Pill, he could recruit some quasi-martial honorables who did not have the confidence to pass the 3 tribulations. And quasi-martial honorables were the chess players who had the ability to influence the direction of the Tianxin continent. Thinking of this, Gu Zi's desire to contact the Demon Master of the Demonic Way as soon as possible became even more urgent. Pushing open the door of the training room, Gu Zi stepped into the room and asked, "Zhao Qing, how is the activation of the magic weapon? How much longer do you need?" Before he could finish his question, Gu Zi was stunned. Because in the training room, besides the praying mat that was usually used for meditation, there was nothing else. That damned Zhao Qing. Considering that before he left the training room, Zhao Qing still had 12 level 4 first-rank spirit stones. The first thought that appeared in Gu Zi's mind was that Zhao Qing had embezzled the level 4 first-rank spirit stones and escaped from the Immortal Fate Pavilion and the Medicine King's Valley. Filled with anger, Gu Zi could not help but roar angrily. Then, not only did he directly activate the protective array of the Medicine King's Valley, but he also contacted the soul of the upper level 3 spirit vein, intending to track Zhao Qing and see if he had escaped from the Medicine King's Valley. There was no problem in mobilizing the mountain protection formation. However, when he tried to contact the consciousness of the spiritual vein Gu Zi was shocked to find that the spiritual vein's consciousness, which had never been cut off, suddenly had no response. Thinking of the sudden destruction of the Tianyuan Pavilion and the mysterious disappearance of the Xianyin Soul Fire, Gu Zi immediately felt that something was wrong. With a wave of his sleeve, the praying mat in front of him revealed a passage to the interior of the spirit vein. Without any hesitation, Gu Zi jumped into the spirit vein. He used his foot to stomp hard on the slightly protruding hill and found that the ground of the hill was very hard. He then spread out his divine will, following the hard ground, and entering the ground bit by bit. Although he was limited by his own cultivation level and the influence of the incomparably dense spirit energy in the surroundings, his divine will could not extend more than 2 meters. However, this distance of 2 meters allowed him to confirm that the hard little hill under his feet was the real weakness of the upper level 3 spirit vein. To be more precise, the hard little hill under his feet was actually filled with the best level 3 spirit stones from level 1 to level 9. And these level 3 spirit stones were the source of power that the upper level 3 spirit vein used to increase the strength of the spirit vein. He retreated from the little hill and mentally retrieved 3 black saliva balls from his storage ring. Then, using his Yuan Li to control the black saliva balls, he detonated them on the little hill. Boom! 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 After the explosion of the black saliva balls disappeared, Yu Haoran raised his head and glanced at the little hill. He found that the explosion of the black saliva balls did not even leave a white mark, let alone a hole. Yu Haoran, unless your cultivation level reaches the martial honorable realm, or the power of the black saliva balls increases by 100 times, you can forget about blasting open the spirit vein in front of you that is formed by level 3 spirit stones. Chapter 686. Immortal Fate Pavilion in the Spirit Vein. Thaling, it looks like you're the only one left. After hearing Thaling's reminder, Yu Haoran shrugged his shoulders and gestured for him to blast open the small hill in front of him so that he could collect the 3rd level spirit stones that could be said to be the best in the Tianxian continent. Yu Haoran, if it was a spiritual hill formed by the soul of an upper level 4th level spirit vein, perhaps I could blast open a part of it with all my might. Unfortunately, what made him extremely disappointed was that the pagoda spirit was also helpless in the face of the small hill formed by the grade 3 spirit stones. But against a spiritual hill formed by the soul of an upper level 3rd level spirit vein, I am helpless. Sigh. Faced with an inexhaustible mountain of gold, but ultimately unable to take any of it due to his own reasons, Yu Haoran sighed, rather gloomily. Then, his gloominess turned into anger. Driven by anger, he sped up his pace and returned to the small hill, then sat down cross-legged. He directly took out the cauldron and took out 36 spirit herbs of different grades and attributes from his storage ring. Yu Haoran, are you sure you want to do this? Seeing that Yu Haoran planned to completely destroy the foundation of the upper level 3rd level spirit vein through the method of refining poison pills that contained deadly poison, Thaling could not bear to continue persuading him. After all, using the vein sealing technique that contained deadly poison had basically cut off the hope of the upper level 3rd level spirit vein to advance to a 2nd level spirit vein. If he used the poison pills on the Tianxian continent's 100 poison ranking to continue destroying the foundation of the spirit vein, the result was very likely to cause the upper level 3rd level spirit vein to deteriorate, eventually downgrading to a 4th level or even a 5th level spirit vein. At that time, the Tianxian continent would lose a foreign cultivator who had a high chance of advancing to the Emperor realm. Thaling, even if I am willing to let go of the grudge between us now, the Valley of the Medicine Masters will let me go. In the face of Thaling's persuasion, Yu Haoran controlled the fire of the cauldron to melt and refine the spirit vein as he refuted Thaling's advice. Furthermore, the person who truly controls the life and death of the Valley of the Medicine Masters is the stronger and more insidious Great Elder. If the Great Elder finds out what I've done, I'm afraid the result won't be much better than having my soul extracted. Therefore, the one who strikes first gains the advantage, and the one who strikes later suffers. After I cut off the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Gu Zi and the head elder would have to think of a way to save the Valley of the Medicine Masters, as well as deal with the threat of external enemies. They would not have the time and energy to deal with me. Alas, after hearing Yu Haoran's explanation, Thaling couldn't help but sigh and stop trying to persuade him. As one stalk of spirit herb after another was thrown into the pill furnace, Yu Haoran's mind was also completely immersed in refining the pill. However, he did not notice that the calm surface of the lake was gradually surging with a trace of ripples. Fowling, who was affected by his melancholy, also did not notice the abnormality in the lake, refining, condensing, forming, and dividing. With the help of the power of the pill furnace's fire after the second advancement, it only took 15 minutes for 3 pills emitting a strange fragrance to slowly fall into Yu Haoran's palm. Carefully sniffing the strange fragrance emitted by the pills, Yu Haoran suddenly felt refreshed. Looking at the 3 pills in Yu Haoran's hand, Fowling said solemnly, "Life-devouring pill, devouring the bones, devouring the soul, and devouring the living. Don't blame me for using the life-devouring pill to deal with you, the soul of an upper-level rank 3 spirit vein." Holding the 3 life-devouring pills in his hand, Yu Haoran walked back to the lake and muttered to himself with a pained expression. If it wasn't for the fact that the Valley of the Medicine Masters Guzi intended to use a demonic secret method to extract the power of my soul and use it to steal my pill refining techniques, how could a kind-hearted person like me use such a heaven-defying method to deal with you? Yuan Li wrapped the 3 life-devouring pills and was about to throw them into the lake. Yu Haoran shook his head and sighed. "Little friend, please take into account that it is not easy for us alien cultivators to cultivate, and listen to this old man first." Just as Yu Haoran's palm was about to open and the 3 life-devouring pills in his hand were about to point at the lake, a panicked old voice suddenly came from all directions. Fowling, who also heard the panicked old voice, immediately released his peak martial honorable realm mind to trace the source of the voice and finally locked onto the lake in front of him. "Yu Haoran, the soul of an upper-level rank 3 spirit vein, is hiding in the lake in front of you. Senior, since you want to negotiate, but you don't want to show your true body, isn't that too insincere?" Yu Haoran didn't retract his arm, holding the life-devouring pill, and asked with a sneer, "Little friend, I don't know what happened, but an hour ago, this old man suddenly felt that his soul was extremely weak. Now, not to mention revealing my true body, even if I want to communicate with you, I have to burn a large number of rank 4 spirit stones." Hearing Yu Haoran's cold question and his unwillingness to withdraw his threat, the soul of the spirit vein in the lake hurriedly explained, "Speak." Using the highly toxic vein sealing technique to cause such great harm to the soul of the spirit vein was beyond Yu Haoran's expectations. Therefore, he did not pursue the other party's impoliteness of not revealing his true body, and directly asked the other party's purpose. However, Fowling in the sea of knowledge frowned and overdrew a small part of his soul power to increase the power of his mind, and then quietly entered the lake. "Little friend, what do you need this old man to do for you to be willing to put away the life-devouring pills in your hand that can devour souls?" Although due to its special constitution, the soul of the spirit vein could not become an alchemist, but after years of interaction and observation with the top alchemists of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, the soul of the spirit vein had an understanding of alchemy that was not inferior to a grandmaster at the peak of alchemy. It knew better than anyone the power of the life-devouring pill to harm the soul of an alien cultivator. It also knew that in its current state, meeting the life-devouring pill would mean certain death. "Spirit vein, what price can you offer to make me give up the idea of revenge? In a negotiation, especially one that involved interests, whoever exposed their trump card first would suffer first. How could Yu Haoran, who was more shrewd than a fox, make such a mistake?" Therefore, he withdrew his hand that was holding the life-devouring pill and asked with a smile, "Little friend, I saw that you wanted to use the black saliva ball to blow up my soul carrier. I'm afraid that you have your eye on the rank 3 upper spirit stones." The equally shrewd soul of the spirit vein also knew the techniques of negotiation that involved interests. Therefore, he did not reveal all his trump cards at the beginning, but based on his own observations, he began to fish for Yu Haoran's bottom line. "How about this? 45 rank 3 first rank to rank 9 spirit stones. How about that? Spirit vein, what do you think? 45 rank 3 first rank to rank 9 spirit stones. the conditions that the soul of the spirit vein had just offered were very generous. After all, 45 rank 3 first-rank spirit stones were enough to satisfy the needs of a warrior who had just started learning martial arts, all the way to the realm of martial honor. But to you, Howard, the conditions that the soul of the spirit vein had just offered were far from what he had expected. Chapter 687. Inside the Spirit Vein, in front of the lake. Double it. 93rd tier first to 9th tier spirit stones. How about it? Seeing you, Howard stretch out his left hand that was holding the life-devouring pill again, and his clenched fist loosened slightly, as if he was going to shoot the life-devouring pill, the spiritual vein divine soul couldn't help but raise the price in panic. Not enough. You, Howard shook his head and refused. It was only a doubling of the spirit stones, but it still didn't reach his expectations. Young friend, the lake in front of you is a spirit liquid that has been purified 9 times using a special method. Its effect is no less than that of a 4th stage or 9th grade spirit stone. Seeing that the doubled amount of spirit stones was still not enough to satisfy you, Howard, the spirit vein spirit immediately thought of the greed that had appeared in you, Howard's eyes when he had first arrived at the lake. I'm willing to give you 1/10 of it. How about that? Spirit vein divine soul, you disappoint me. You, Howard, could not help but laugh sarcastically when he heard that the second condition of the spiritual vein spirit was actually to give away the lake water in front of him. The effect of the lake water is not inferior to that of a 4th stage, 9th rank spirit stone. It is closely connected to your spirit, so I can't maintain the effect of the lake water to increase your cultivation base and strength for a long time. Tell me, what do I need this lake water for? This. You, Howard, was even able to tell that the purified lake water was closely connected to his spiritual soul. You, Howard's mysterious means terrified the spiritual vein's spiritual soul. At the same time, it did not know what to say. You, Howard, be careful. The spirit vein soul is using a terrifying soul controlling mystic technique at the bottom of the lake. I'm afraid it wants to control your soul, controlling mystic technique, in order to remove the threat of the life-devouring pill. Just when you, Howard, had exposed the evil intentions of the spirit vein and made it speechless, Thaling, who had used the power of his spirit to enhance his soul consciousness to observe the spirit vein, reminded you, Howard, with a somewhat panicked expression. To be able to cause the pagoda spirit to panic, it meant that the secret technique used by the spirit vein spirit was not something he could resist. Therefore, after hearing Thaling's reminder, you, Howard, did not hesitate at all. He directly flicked the 3 life-devouring pills in his hand into the lake, and then sped up to retreat. Not good. The head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Guzi, is on his way. Just as you, Howard, accelerated his retreat and planned to temporarily leave the spirit vein, Thaling's warning came from his sea of consciousness. There were wolves in front and tigers behind. Faced with a dilemma, you, Howard, did not panic at all. Instead, he calmly thought of a way to deal with it. It was a secret control technique that could cause Thaling, whose spirit had recovered to the peak of the martial honorable realm, to panic. Therefore, it would not be easy for someone with a rank 3 upper spiritual vein, who is only at the peak of martial honorable realm, to successfully execute it. The sealing technique of the 5 veins, which contained deadly poison, had already caused serious damage to his spirit. The life-devouring pills that had just been flicked into the lake would affect the safety of his spirit. Under such circumstances, it was hard to say whether the spirit vein spirit could successfully execute the secret control technique. Moreover, even if the spirit vein spirit could execute the secret control technique, so what if it could successfully control his spirit? Based on the speed at which the life-devouring pills damage the spirit, it would take at most 1 to 2 minutes for the spirit vein to be completely devoured. Without the spirit vein, how could it continue to control his spirit? Thinking of this, Yu Haoran immediately made a decision. Mobilizing all the Yuan power in his dantian, he sped up to the lake in front of him. Yu Haoran, what are you doing? Seeing Yuhaoran speed up to the lake, Thowling asked in confusion, "I feel that my cultivation is too low, so I plan to use the spiritual liquid that has been purified 9 times to increase my cultivation." Casually answering Thowling's question, Yuhaoran jumped directly into the lake. If the pure spiritual qi in the spiritual vein was like a stream of water, then the spiritual liquid that had been purified 9 times was like a raging sea. His cultivation and grade were rising crazily, completely out of his control. In this regard, Yuhaoran, who had long been prepared, was not nervous at all. While guarding his heart, he spread out his divine thought to find a location of the spirit veins, spirit vein. Just as Yuhaoran jumped into the lake, the spirit veins, spirit veins, spirit vein felt the life-devouring pills devouring the spirit veins, spirit vein. It could not help but scream and beg bitterly. "Little friend, I beg you, hurry up and dissolve the poison of the life-devouring pills. No matter what you ask, I will agree to it." According to the source of the scream, Yuhaoran's divine thought quickly saw a mini blue dragon about 1 meter long, emitting a blue light all over its body near the bottom of the lake. "Spirit veins, spirit vein, didn't you secretly use a secret method to control my spirit vein?" Stabilizing his body, Yuhaoran looked coldly at the blue dragon, whose spirit was gradually being devoured by the life-devouring pills, causing it to writhe in pain. His voice was full of coldness. "Now you can use a secret method to see if you can control my spirit vein. Little friend, everything is my fault. I apologize to you now. Moreover, I swear by the rules of heaven, if I have any thoughts of hurting you, my spirit will be devoured and I will never be reincarnated." Seeing that Yuhaoran was aware of its secret method, the spirit vein's spirit vein immediately knew why he suddenly used the life-devouring pills. It also knew that if it could not immediately come up with a method to convince him, its spirit vein would completely disappear in 1 or 2 minutes at most. Therefore, it hurriedly swore by the rules of heaven, hoping that it could persuade Yuhaoran. Yuhaoran, let it go, then find a way to control it, and finally transfer it to Qinyan Peak. Hearing Thowling, who also swore by the rules of heaven, a bold idea immediately came to his mind, and he quickly reminded him. In this way, Qinyan Peak will have the potential to become a cave abode in the future. Okay. Thowling's reminder was exactly what he had just thought of, so Yuhaoran pretended to be reluctant and agreed. Then, he took out 9 spiritual herbs that contained highly toxic poison from the storage ring, and then used the Dantian fire to melt and refine them. Every time a drop of spirit liquid was melted and refined, the spirit liquid would automatically merge into the soul of the spirit vein, calming down the blue dragon who was writhing in pain. By the time the 9 stalks of spirit herbs had completely melted and purified into spirit liquid and merged with the spirit vein spirit, the 1-meter-long blue dragon had completely calmed down. Although Yuhaoran was bound by the rules of the heavenly Tao, and the spirit vein spirit did not dare to attack him, the cautious Yuhaoran did not dare to be careless and directly pointed out, "Spiritual veins and divine souls. The 9 drops of spiritual liquid I hurriedly refined just now were only temporarily suppressing the soul-devouring power of the life-devouring pill." Chapter 688. In the Spirit Vein, in a Lake. Thank you. After calming down the pain caused by the life-devouring pill, he slowly opened his eyes and looked at Yuhaoran floating in the lake. The blue dragon formed by the spirit vein, soul, spoke his thanks in human language. Waving his hand, Yuhaoran indicated that there was no need to be so courteous. He planned to leave the lake first. After all, he had been in the lake for less than 3 minutes, and his cultivation and physical body grade had already increased by more than a small realm due to the pure spiritual liquid that crazily surged into his body. At this moment, his cultivation was already at the high stage of 4th grade martial arts grandmaster, and his cultivation grade had also reached the high stage of 6th grade martial arts grandmaster. If he continued to stay, his cultivation and physical body grade would continue to break through uncontrollably in a few minutes. A breakthrough in cultivation and physical body grade was a good thing, but if it was not under his control, it would make him feel uncertain, and he would be worried about whether it would affect his solid foundation. Honor Blue Dragon, are you there? However, just as Yuhauran was about to leave the lake and suppress his rapid breakthrough, Guzi's concerned voice suddenly came from the surface of the lake above his head. Young friend, what should I do? Hearing Guzi's concerned question, the spirit vein soul immediately asked for Yuhauran's opinion. Think a way to get him out of the spirit vein. If he made use of the spirit vein soul and the special environment of the upper third-grade spirit vein, there was a high chance that Guzi would remain. However, this flash had only just appeared before it was forcefully extinguished by him. This was different from destroying the foundation of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. This kind of damage was indirect and lasted for a longer time. Furthermore, there was the hope of making up for it and the possibility of making peace with the Valley of the Medicine Masters. However, if he directly killed the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters, it would be equivalent to creating a blood feud with the Valley of the Medicine Masters. Furthermore, the side effects of killing the head of the Valley of the Medicine Masters were not something he could bear for the time being. Therefore, he could only think of a way to get Guzi to leave first. Valley Head, I'm fine. Just now, when Tianyuan Pavilion was destroyed, the cold air produced by the Xian Soul Fire damaged my consciousness slightly. In at most 3 to 5 days, I will be able to completely recover. After receiving Yuhauran's instructions, the spiritual pulse divine soul thought for a while and used the Xian Soul Fire as an excuse to signal Guzi to leave. That's good, that's good. Hearing that nothing had happened to the rank 3 upper spirit vein, the originally anxious Guzi secretly heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, he could not help but rejoice. Venerable Blue Dragon, please have a good rest. I'll take my leave first. Subsequently, he instructed the spirit in the spiritual vein to recuperate its damaged spiritual sense before hurriedly turning around and leaving the spiritual vein. Not only did he have to send men to capture Zhao Qing, he also had to think of a way to appease Yuhauran and convince him not to leave the Valley of the Medicine Masters for the time being. After the Thowling confirmed that the grains had really left, Yuhauran quickly left the lake. Because of the delay in Guzi's recovery, his cultivation and physical body grade had been forcefully raised to the peak by the pure spirit liquid. Using Yuan Li to rush out of the lake and land steadily on the shore, Yuhauran hurriedly suppressed the raging Yuan Li in his body and the urge to break through to the next level. Young friend, when do you think it would be convenient to refine the antidote for the life-devouring elixir? The spiritual pulse divine soul also floated to the surface of the lake and looked at Yuhauran with longing in its eyes. Shrugging his shoulders, Yuhauran said with a helpless expression, "Although I really want to refine the antidote now, I lack the spirit herbs needed to refine the antidote. I don't have a choice. Young friend, please give me a set of the spirit herbs needed to refine the antidote. I'll see if I can gather them." It could refine the antidote, but it couldn't because of the lack of spirit herbs. Faced with Yuhauran's explanation, the spiritual pulse divine soul heaved a sigh of relief and planned to gather the spirit herbs needed to refine the antidote himself. After all, the Medicine King Valley was still the holy land of alchemy in the Tianxin continent. There were tens of thousands of precious spirit herbs planted in the thousands of acres of herb fields. Whatever spirit herbs one wanted, the grade of spirit herbs one needed, could not be found. Here, taking out a blank jade slip, he used his divine thought to mark a total of more than 600 spirit herbs and threw it directly to the spiritual pulse divine soul. This, after scanning the jade slip with his divine thought, the spiritual pulse divine soul suddenly looked at Yuhauran speechlessly. Even the level 2 grade 9 divine elixir, which was said to be able to help the Emperor Wu break through to the martial honored realm, did not need so many spirit herbs. Yuhauran was obviously taking advantage of the situation. "Don't look at me like that. Seeing the speechless and doubtful look in the spiritual pulse, divine soul's eyes, Yuharan suddenly questioned unhappily, "Are you refining the detoxification elixir? Or am I refining the detoxification elixir?" "Of course it's you." Seeing Yuharan's displeasure, the spiritual pulse divine soul hurriedly indicated with a smile, "Since I'm refining the detoxification elixir, it's up to me to decide how many spirit herbs are needed. Do you think the detoxification elixir of a life-devouring elixir is so easy to refine?" "Young friend, don't misunderstand. I really don't mean anything else. I'm just thinking about how long it will take to gather the 600 spirit herbs." Fearing that Yuharan would be angry and delay the time to refine the detoxification elixir, the spiritual pulse divine soul hurriedly persuaded him. "That's right." Yuharan nodded with satisfaction. In fact, the spiritual pulse divine soul's guess was right. Among the 600 spirit herbs, only 9 were needed to refine the detoxification elixir. The remaining 600-plus spirit herbs included a complete set of the 365 spirit herbs needed to refine the Ice Heart Jade Bone elixir. With the second upgrade of the alchemical fire in the alchemical furnace, the melting and refining speed of the spirit herbs had increased, and the consumption of yuan, li, and soul power had decreased. This made his desire to refine the Ice Heart Jade Bone elixir with his own abilities more and more intense. However, considering that the Ice Heart Jade Bone elixir was of a higher grade than the 5 Lives Mystery Gate elixir, he wasn't 100% confident that he could refine it successfully. Therefore, he needed to prepare a set of spirit herbs for the Ice Heart Jade Bone elixir in case he needed them. Other than the 365 spirit herbs needed to refine the Ice Heart Jade Bone elixir, the remaining 200-plus spirit herbs were to be used to refine the Vitality elixir and the Soul elixir. After all, the Martial Ancestor, Martial King, and Martial Emperor realms cultivation targeted the soul. The Vitality elixir and the Soul elixir could satisfy these 3 realms at the same time. All right, then quickly prepare the spirit herbs needed to refine the detoxification elixir. I still have matters to attend to and need to leave this place immediately. He had temporarily let go of the spiritual pulse divine soul, so that he could move the spiritual pulse divine soul to Qingyun Peak in the future. However, leaving the Valley of the Medicine Masters would cause great damage to the spiritual pulse divine soul. He was afraid that it might not be willing. In order to achieve the goal of moving it, he had to make preparations beforehand. However, these preparations couldn't be done in front of the spiritual pulse divine soul. Chapter 689. In the Spirit Vein, in front of the lake, Yuharan instructed the Spirit Vein soul to quickly prepare the 600 or so spirit herbs needed to refine the antidote elixir as soon as possible. But at this moment, the Spirit Vein soul behind him suddenly asked, "Young friend, where do you plan to go next?" 10,000 acres of herb fields. Yuharan replied. To control the Spirit Vein soul, he still needed to make use of poison, which he was most proficient in. So he planned to go to the herb fields to pick the spirit herbs and integrate them into the antidote elixir. Young friend, the entire Valley of the Medicine Masters is built on the body of my spirit vein. As long as you are in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, no matter where you want to go, I can send you there in an instant. Not leaving the Valley of the Medicine Masters, Yuharan's explanation reassured the spirit vein soul, and it couldn't help but curry favor with him. If that's the case, then please send me to the herb fields. The spirit vein soul's reply delighted Yuharan, and he hurriedly instructed. The uncontrollable consecutive breakthroughs in his realm made Yuharan worry about whether his solid foundation would be shaken. So he really didn't want to go back the way he came to avoid the uncontrollable pure spirit energy entering his body forcefully and causing him to continue breaking through his realm. All right. The blue dragon condensed from the spirit vein soul waved its dragon claws, and Yuharan instantly returned to the herb fields. And just as he stabilized his body, a mysterious power suddenly surged into his mind. Carefully feeling the mysterious power in his mind, Yu Haoran immediately felt a burst of ecstasy. Because just as he entered the spirit vein and planned to destroy the foundation of the upper level 3 spirit vein, his first doppelganger successfully passed the 3 tests left behind by the Honorable Alchemist and successfully received the inheritance of the Honorable Alchemist's pill, Dao, and poison Dao. Originally, limited by his own cultivation, he didn't have much confidence in refining the Ice Heart Jade Bone Elixir alone. Now, with the cooperation of his first doppelganger who had successfully received the inheritance of the Honorable Alchemist and the help of the furnace fire that had advanced 2 times in a row, he was confident in his ability. With regard to refining the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill, his confidence was about the same as refining the grains. Of course, other than having a greater chance of refining the Icy Heart Jade Bone Elixir, what really made Yu Haoran ecstatic was that Alchemy Venerated was still a peak alchemy grandmaster. In his previous life, his alchemy cultivation had been limited by the environment he lived in. He had been stuck at the peak of the alchemy grandmaster realm. He wasn't as confident as he was in front of Feng Qingyun and Qin Lingfei about whether he could break through to the pill Dao Grandmaster realm in 3 to 5 years. However, now that he had the legacy of the Alchemy Venerate, as well as his first clone that specialized in alchemy and poison pills, he was confident that he could break through to the Alchemy Grandmaster realm within 1 to 2 years, let alone 3 to 5 years. Closing his eyes, he used the doppelganger's mental connection to contact his first doppelganger. In the beginning, he was unable to communicate with the first clone because of the double restriction of the spirit vein and the alchemy venerate space. This caused their minds to be forcefully severed. Now that he had left the spirit vein and his first doppelganger was in control of the alchemy venerated space, it did not take much effort for him to successfully contact his first doppelganger. "Brother Hao, how do you feel?" "Brother Yu, we were all wrong." In the face of Yu Haoran's concern, the first doppelganger gave an answer that puzzled Yu Haoran. "Brother Hao, could it be that the legacy of the alchemy venerate is fake?" Yu Haoran asked with some disappointment. "No." The first doppelganger shook his head and said with a rueful expression, "The legacy of the alchemy venerate is real. However, what's different from the rumors is that the alchemy venerate is not at the peak of the alchemy grandmaster realm, but an alchemy emperor who has broken through to the alchemy grandmaster realm." After hearing the first doppelganger's explanation, Yu Haoran asked in disbelief. The alchemy venerate was actually an alchemy emperor who had broken through to the alchemy grandmaster realm. "Brother Hao, you're saying that the alchemy venerate has already become an alchemy emperor?" "That's right." The first doppelganger nodded and confirmed with a solemn expression. "That's not right." Although he had received confirmation from the first doppelganger, based on the realms of alchemy masters in his previous life and his understanding of the alchemy venerate, he could not help but have a question in his heart. "Brother Hao, if the alchemy venerate had already become an alchemy emperor, then with his alchemy cultivation, he could have concocted the yin-yang longevity pill that could increase one's lifespan by 10,000 years. It would be impossible for him to die of old age when his lifespan reached the limit of 3,000 years. Regardless of whether it was the records of the alchemy venerate in the Medicine King Valley or the rumors of the alchemy venerate in the outside world, the alchemy venerate had only lived to the limit of 3,000 years when he reached the peak of the 9th grade martial saint realm. Although breaking through to the alchemy venerate realm would not increase one's lifespan, through the alchemy skills of the alchemy venerate realm, there were many kinds of top-notch pills that could increase one's lifespan. They would definitely be able to break through the shackles of the 9th grade martial saint realm. Brother Yu, actually, when the alchemy venerate broke through to the alchemy venerate realm, his own cultivation had also broken through to the martial honor realm. Faced with Yu Haoran's question, the first doppelganger explained further, suppressing a strong sense of hatred in his voice. However, just as he was breaking through to the martial and alchemy realms and consolidating his cultivation, he was unexpectedly ambushed by a group of black-clothed men, resulting in him having no choice but to commit suicide due to his heavy injuries. "So that's how it is." Nodding his head, Howard finally understood why the alchemy venerate, who had broken through to the alchemy emperor realm, would suddenly die of old age. So it was because of an accident. Brother Yu, can I ask you for a favor? Recalling the scene of the alchemy venerate being ambushed and heavily injured and having no choice but to commit suicide, the first doppelganger's heart instantly surged with boundless killing intent as he made this request. Brother Hao, you and I are one person. What's the point of asking for favors? Howard hinted. Brother Yu, since I've accepted the alchemy venerate's inheritance, I'm his only disciple. Then, as his disciple, I have an obligation to avenge my master, the first doppelganger said with a murderous aura. Therefore, I hope that, brother, you can help me investigate the origins of those black-clothed men when you go out for training. Also, when you break through to the martial saint realm, kill those who ambush my master. No problem. Faced with the first doppelganger's request, Howard nodded his head in agreement without hesitation. Brother Yu, many thanks. The first doppelganger thanked sincerely. All right, you don't have to be so courteous with me. After comforting the first doppelganger, Howard immediately returned to the topic at hand and asked, Brother Hao, how long do you need to fully understand the alchemy venerate's inheritance? If it's just to accept the inheritance, it'll take at most a day and a night. After calculating the time, the first doppelganger replied, If I want to fully comprehend the pill Tao and poison pills that my master left behind, I'll need at least 20 years. Brother Hao, after you've accepted the alchemy venerate's inheritance, meet me immediately. Then, we'll work together to refine the 5 Lives Mystery Gate pill and the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill. For the time being, Howard did not need to fully comprehend the alchemy venerate's inheritance in order to refine the 2 types of pills. Therefore, Howard quickly reminded him, You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.